Supposed to be on, but not seeing it. Think I'm on now. Yeah, awesome. Testing, testing. Think I'm on now. Yeah, awesome. Testing, testing. Think I'm on now. Yeah, I'm on. If it echoing like that, or I'm on. Show you up and running. All right, you two up and running. Good, good, good. Now for the last one, YouTube. Yes, you know, yeah, I had that one up too now. Yeah, I mean. And making sure everything up and running. Excellent, excellent quality. All right. Good stuff. Now eat.
The online game circuit shook the world with its launch. Within a month, it drew
says that everyone calls her the White Witch, and explains that she used the appearance of an old woman on
All right. Half an hour. Let's see what I could draw for an hour.
Neck, arms, limbs were being chopped off. An army was struggling against a single person. The soldiers tells the leader that their enemy was just a single swordsman, an angry man swinging swords to the end of Earth. That's our main character. But how did he get into this situation? So, not long ago, the first emperor of the Eustacia magical empire, Godofrid von Eustacia, declared their nation to be only for citizens possessing magic, and those without magical powers, vermin that corrode the empire. Overnight, the Superior Bloodline Protection Act was enacted. It stripped non-magical humans of their rights, denied them reproductive freedom, and planned their extermination through slave labor. The king increased the population of magic-wielding mages to bolster military power. Eustacia flourished as the continent's mightiest nation. In such a nation was our hero Dino born as an inferior human without magic. By the time he gained awareness, he was already training as a gladiator for the Colosseum. He was beaten daily until he vomited blood, forced to fight to the death in matches, fed moldy bread and sleeping on straw bedding. He would wake up the next day, train again, and fight death each day. It was a life of endless suffering, but there was some hope even in this. The Colosseum owner told them about Caesar, who was a great gladiator and won 1,000 victories and earned his freedom and also rights. Most of the gladiators found the goal unrealistic. They believed that they were just entertainment for those people to be slaughtered. But there was one guy who motivated Dino to keep the hope up. He was his only friend in that hellhole, Lloyd. Encouraging each other, pushing higher, they honed their swords, dreaming of earning their freedom someday. Hundreds, no thousands people they had killed. In the end, Dino finally gets his 1,000 victories. The magical beings were impressed to see that. Dino thought that his suffering will finally end now. But the daughter of the Colosseum's owner, Elsa, laughs on his face and tells him that Caesar was just a made-up story by her father. He never really planned to set him free, that he just needed to bait them to fight more. Dino was devastated to hear that. She lifts him up using her magic ad, tells him that inferiors like him cannot even see magic. So, even if he wins 1,000 more matches, he will still remain her slave. She was not happy to see that he dared to think about earning freedom. For that, she locks him up in the darkest cell and tortures him. Dino could see his dream fading away in front of his eyes. Elsa tells him that he has turned 18 almost. That was the age when the male slaves get castrated. She grabs his nuts and tells him that she will personally do that for him. Dino had given up all hopes at this point. He did not care about anything anymore. Then suddenly a messenger enters in and tells Elsa that near the border area all the gladiators were attacking their forces. They were suffering heavy casualties because of that. The king gets angry and warns all the slaves to retreat. The gladiators were not afraid. They charges forward only. Some dies, some takes the lives of those who called themselves superior. The mages starts using big magical blasts in the end. The humans were not capable of countering it. In a huge blast, the prison shatters and the upper half of a gladiator's body falls in front of Dino. With whatever life he had left in him, he tells Dino that his suffering has come to an end and takes his final breath. Dino, who was still trying to process it all, had enough. It reached the threshold. A soldier comes to strike him, but Dino starts moving as well. He dodges the sword and cuts the guy in half. He did not expect anything from them anymore. He just wanted to slaughter them all. With one sword in each hand, he decides to go on a final rampage. Those magical beings stood no chance against this magicless gladiator swinging 2 pieces of metals. Bodies, bodies, and more bodies. The prey had become a predator. The soldiers were scared and tells their general. The general comes to assist them, but even he stood no chance in front of Dino. In no time, Dino beheads him as well. He could no longer see anything but just sense the magic bullets that they were firing at him. He was able to feel the cold sensation. He was familiar with it. In the Colosseum, time and time again, he was dealing with death itself. He was operating purely in killing intent. The soldier starts wondering if he could see magic. Dino just knew 2 things: dodge death and then kill it back. He swears that he will not die until he can grip his sword. The soldier wonders what he endured to achieve that. In the end, the princess steps into the battlefield as casualties rises too much. She grabs Dino's sword gently and tells him to stop. Dino could hardly see a feminine figure in front of him. His eyes were almost dead. She tells him that he has done his duty and now can rest. Dino could not understand anything, but for some reason he could not feel the killing intent from her. Her presence was faint. He drops the swords in the end. She asks him his name. Dino slowly replies. Then she introduces herself as Rafine Rio Sandalia, the 3rd princess of Sandalia and the commander of the defense. She offers him a hand and tells him that she will pay him sincere respect for his swordsmanship and bravery. She honors him as their most fearsome enemy. It was star calendar year 787. The Eustacia magical empire invaded the kingdom of Sedalia, using the conquered kingdom of Estopia as their advance route. This initial clash ended in a total victory for Sandalia. Eustacia's 20,000-strong army faced Sandalia's 4,000 yet in a single battle. They lost 10,000 men and their supreme commander, the 5th prince, leading to their annihilation. They were forced into a ceasefire agreement. The overwhelming victory was thanks to Sandalia's meticulous preparations. Sandalia had foreseen that invasion 3 years prior, back when Estopia still existed. They embedded hidden troops in Estopia. Those troops ambushed the enemy headquarters, crippling their chain of command. And then they crushed the disoriented enemy army with a full frontal assault. And the one who devised and led this entire strategy was none other than Rafine, the 3rd princess who was just 18 years old at that time. And now this brave woman was offering a hand to Dino. Right when Dino was accepting the offer, a guy named Gilbert comes from behind and pins Dino to the ground. He tells him that he slaughtered so many of them and now was daring to touch the princess, for which he must pay. Gilbert takes out his sword and was about to stab Dino to death, but then Rafine tells Gilbert to stop. She tells him that the enemy forces have retreated. The battle was over. There was no need for any more unnecessary deaths, she says. Gilbert reluctantly drops his blade. Rafine tells Dino that she will have a dialogue with him soon. Days, weeks goes by. Dino was back into working as a laborer in the prison. He still was thinking about Rafine. Another mage prisoner punches him in the head and tells him to stop spacing out in between work. Even other laborers were sick of that man as he makes them do all his work. They hated how they were being treated, but what can they even do? Dino asks a guy if they need to cut that tall, thick tree. The guy replies that they cannot simply cut it like that. For thick trees, first they need to decide the falling direction and make a notch. Usually 3 people was required to do it over a period of time. But then they were shocked when Dino tells them that he can do it alone. He steps back and then swings his axe very hard and cuts the thick tree at once. Everyone who witnessed that was stunned. Dino even tells them that he will finish all the 29 left tree before lunch. That was the quota for all of them, by the way. He does not back up from his words. People do ask him how does he have such inhuman strength. Dino tells them that he just knows a little bit of swordsmanship. But then their supervisor, Lieutenant Johann, comes and tells them that his strength was more impressive than some of the clumsy magic. He points at the mage and tells them that even he, after possessing magical power, has not cut a single branch. The mage starts shouting that if he wants, then he can cut down as many trees as he wants. He did not like being compared to an inferior human. The supervisor replies that he expects equal work from him as well from there on. The mage gets pissed. Lunchtime begins. They were now getting much better food than they used to. They almost feared that if they get used to ration like that, then they cannot adjust if they get bad food again. They were even getting soups a second time. Then the supervisor, Johann, comes and asks Dino if he can sit beside him. He quietly asks Dino if he was the rumored warrior who broke through our encirclement. He was wondering how can an ordinary human being can acquire such level of swordsmanship. Dino drinks his soup and then tells Johann that he was a Colosseum gladiator. Since childhood, he killed people in the ring. He only knew two things: kill or get killed. Gilbert hears that and comes and tells Dino that he is nothing but a barbaric swordsman. He asks Dino to get up on his feet and spar him. Everyone hears the commotion and gathers there to see the battle. After all, the vice commander does not challenge someone regularly. There was hype around that fight. Everyone thought that Gilbert would win easily as he was a top-tier mage, while Dino was just a human swordsman. But Gilbert tells them that he would not use magic this time. A slave lady brings Dino his two swords that he used earlier. Johann tells Gilbert that he cannot fight prisoners as it would be prisoner abuse. Gilbert replies that he would not make it unpaid. He announces it in the prison that if Dino manages to beat him, then he will buy drinks for all prisoners with his funds. All the prisoners starts getting excited for the fight now. They starts cheering for Dino. They just wanted free drink. Gilbert tells Dino that if he's scared, then he can run away while he has the time. Even Johann tells Dino to not push himself. But then Dino lifts his swords and tells them that he accepts the challenge. Gilbert attacks first. Dino blocks. Gilbert rampages at him from various angles with his incredible speed. Everyone thinks that Dino was losing. Gilbert hated it when Rafine had to kneel to respect Dino. He only expected that sort of respect for a swordsman for him. Gilbert rushes at Dino with full speed. Dino throws one of his blades at him. Gilbert was already expecting that the moment he saw twin blades. He deflects that swords and charges forward. But what he did not expect was another sword trailing right behind the first one. Yes, he had thrown both the sword one after other, and it catches Gilbert off guard. He uses his reflex and deflects that one as well, but Dino dives at him. Gilbert felt that he was in danger and fires some magic shots at Dino. Even after multiple cuts, Dino was still advancing at him. He grabs Gilbert's hand and lifts him up and smashes him to the ground. The sword that Gilbert knocked up comes down, and Dino grabs it and points at him and tells him that he lost. It was clear. Gilbert was defeated. He walks off while telling him that his sword only knows how to kill, so he should find someone else to train with. People around could not believe that the Daneslave family lost a sword fight. It was unprecedented. Dino was so calm even after taking a magic sneak attack. Dino tells them that it just hurts, but as long as it is not fatal, he can move. And if he can move, then he can kill. That was all he ever knew, and can never forget. Gilbert was shocked to hear his answer. He does keep his promise and pays for everyone's drink. All the prisoners thanks Dino for that. That night, Dino could not sleep easily. He was praised for using his word for the first time. Earlier, he never experienced that. People only killed each other, and no one praised anyone for doing it. Blood and death was the only truth, and Dino was no different. He killed so many people. He wonders if he even deserves to feel that kind of happiness. The next day, while he was bathing, girls were talking about his beautiful long black hair. They were attracted to his scarred, muscular body. Plus, they found his face cute as well. Gilbert was known to train the royalty in swordsmanship. The rumor of Dino beating him spreads like wildfire throughout the camp. Especially, he was getting popular among the girls. And more than that, even soldiers came to him and asked him to train them. He was now their idol. It was a strange feeling. His enemy nation was recognizing him more than his hometown ever did. He was getting good warm meal, kind words, and much more respect. It was never possible in his hometown. He was living a much better life since becoming a prisoner. Gilbert comes all of a sudden and tells him that the princess has summoned him. He still looked upset. Dino goes to the royal castle and Rafine welcomes him warmly. She was busy with some paperwork, so she asks him to wait just a little. Dino asks her if she was still busy after the war ended. She replies that the aftermath of the war was more chore than the war itself. She tells him that she was currently compiling a list of the war-dead people to apply for bravement payments. Gilbert tells her that she can leave such menial tasks to them. Rafine replies that she cannot delegate with that one as so many soldiers died under her command. Some even volunteered for near-suicidal missions. She did not want to see them as numbers instead of people. That would make her a monster, she says. That work kept her human. Dino apologizes to her and tells her that in the list many would be people he killed. She looks at him and replies that he is not to be blamed, that soldiers does not bear responsibility for war. It falls to those who lead the nations. What Dino did to protect his people was understandable. She tells him that she instead greatly respects his skills for which she summoned him. She shakes his hands and bluntly tells him that she wants to recruit him as a captain equivalent under her command. Dino was shocked to hear that. She starts ranting about how their nation was getting weaker compared to the enemy nation. They needed every capable person they can to fight for the nation. She tells him that usually only mages could become officers there, but due to his exceptional skill with the swords, she was allowing that exception. She promises him that she will reward him appropriately. Dino sees that an enemy princess was offering him a reputation. He had no idea about any military ranks, but he could feel that she genuinely values his sword that others called worthless. Elsa humiliated him so much. She made him kill so many people for nothing. Rafine was expecting him to take the offer immediately. She heard what he was treated as in his home country. She heard how people without magic were enslaved and called inferior. So she thought he would jump at any chance to escape that life. Yet he was hesitating. She also sensed great pride in his sword when he defeated Gilbert. She asks him, what was the reason for all that? Dino tells her that he has killed his best friend with his own hands. Rafine and Gilbert were shocked to hear that. Dino tells them further that his name was Lloyd, who was around his age, and he motivated him to fight in the Colosseum. They thought that they would earn their freedom after winning 1,000 battles as promised to them. Because of that only, Dino never gave up. But then a day came when they had to fight each other. When two gladiators enter the ring, only one leaves alive. That was the rule. So, to survive, Dino had to kill his best friend. And not just him. He had to kill so many people in the hope of earning his own freedom. He thinks that he is a selfish guy and a monster. After hearing all that, Rafine asks him to put all his guilt aside for a while and try being happy. Gilbert tells her that she went a bit off script. She was supposed to say that his friend would want him to be happy. She replies that she never met Lloyd, but she knows that he would curse Dino from his grave. She tells Dino that only he can tell what his friend would want as he knew him best. She asks him to face his dilemmas himself. She advises him to secure stability in his life first and then look for those answers. Gilbert again tells her that she was speaking other than what she was supposed to. Rafine tells Dino that she knows nothing about his friend, but she does know that he can have a very handsome face hidden behind his bangs and touches his face gently. Dino starts crying. He thought of himself as a horrible person who does not deserve such attention from her. He never knew that people that kind existed in that cruel world. Now he wanted to become her word and save her from any threat. She was the one who found him in hell after all. Dino wipes his tears and tells her that he is ready to do whatever she says. Meanwhile, back at the prison, Gilbert's little sister Iris brings food and medical supplies for everyone in a cart. But when she reaches there, she sees a commotion. People were hurt. The Johann tells her that many prisoners collapsed all of a sudden. At the same time, Dino also spits blood and collapses in the castle. Rafine rushes at him to see what happened. Then she was informed that the prisoners of war were all collapsing one after another. So many people were dying mysteriously. The special hygiene officer, Alice Darnslife, tells her that it is a curse. All the Eustacia soldiers who were not mages were subjected to a curse. It was a filthy magic that simultaneously erodes the mind and the body with no use other than to kill them. The mage from earlier laughs and tells them that they place a curse on the inferior humans during conscription. It was the curse that activates if they stays away from Eustacia for too long. The mage taunts them for wasting their resources by giving excessive treatment to the inferior humans' beings. Rafine gets pissed and lifts his by his shirt and asks him if providing a normal meal and bed is considered to be excessive treatment. The mage begs her to not kill him. Gilbert tells Rafine that the person was high on the list of prisoner exchange, so even if she feels angry towards him, she must not kill him. Rafine drops him down lividly and tells Alice to do their best to save any body they can, even if it's just one person. The officer replies yes and goes to work immediately. After reluctant efforts from the doctors and healers, the bleeding stops. But they were afraid that it was a temporary stopgap. Healing techniques could only suppress the physical collapse, but that curse was also attacking the mind. If the spirit succumbs, then the collapse of the body would accelerate, and death will become inevitable. On top of that, as they do not possess magical powers, their chances of surviving that curse was very slim. Rafine was deeply disturbed to see all that. She did not want any more deaths. Dino was experiencing something else in his head. He sees himself standing in a dark, open area and a black ocean. Before he could process anything, Corpses rises out of the water and starts attacking him. Soon Dino realizes that those were faces he killed at the Colosseum. Now they were hunting him. Dino gives up. He accepts that he deserves punishment for what he has done. But then he remembers Rafine's words and starts fighting back. He wanted to live a respectful life that she promised him. He keeps fighting. Most of the other prisoners were dying after losing the mental battle. It was impossible for a human without magical powers to break a curse. Dino was in terrible state but still alive. The doctors could see that his will to live was more than anyone else, but he might succumb any time as well. His body was bleeding so much that his heart might stop any time. Alice asks the doctor what was his blood type. The doctor replies that it was YA blood group, which was one of the rarest one. That's why they were not finding any donators, fighting all those corpses. But there was no signs of stopping. And then he sees Lloyd walking towards him. He tells Dino that he betrayed him and left him in a cold and dark place. Dino feels like he cannot fight anymore and lowers his sword. He remembers the time he killed Lloyd. The whole arena was cheering for him to kill Lloyd. When he was hesitating to do that, Lloyd told him that they both knew that such a day would come and only one will go ahead. So he should not feel bad for it. That's their duty as gladiators. He knew that Dino was too kind. He gives Dino his own sword to keep him with him forever. That's why Dino never leaves those two swords. After remembering that Dino cuts the fake's Liad into two and tells it that he knows it's fake, he knew what kind of person Liad was and knew that he would never say something like that. He calls it a fake loudly. He does not stop there. He starts killing all the fake people in his head. All the core takes a form of a huge creature. But Dino was not scared anymore. He wanted to see how far he can go and jumps at the monster. He slashes it down and finally accepts his truth. Dino opens his eyes and sees Rafine. She was very happy to see him alive. He hardly gets up and grabs her hand and tells her that she recognized his worth when no one else did. He wanted to say that to her so badly. He asks her to make him her sword. The princess had seen enough. Tears comes out of her eyes and she accepts him as her sword. This marks a new beginning in both their lives. That is how the legendary tale that will be passed down through the ages began. Meanwhile, back in Eustacia, Elsa was killing her men for not being able to find Dino. They told her that he died in battle, but she refuses to believe that. This lady is so toxic. More than a month passes since the clash between the Sandaria Kingdom and the Eustacia Magic Empire. During the 30 days ceasefire which Sandaria agreed to on the condition of a prisoner exchange, with the immediate threat confirmed to be gone, the frontline commander Rafine was set to make a triumphant return to the royal capital Florence. She was now the enemy nation's sword expert slave Dino, who swore to protect and fight for her. They reaches the capital city Florence and then Rafine makes Dino wear a bunch of fashionable outfits. She loves how good he looked in formal as well as casual dress. She tells him to hold the sword and strike a pose. Dino asks her what was the point of all that. She replies that she cannot let him wear those slave outfit forever, so she was deciding a set of outfits for him. She commands him to go on a date with her around the town. Dino freaks out after hearing that. He asks her the reason, and she replies that she wants to play. The fact that she was the frontline commander since such a young age and was busy most of the time. The next day, she will have to lead the victory parade, and after that, she will have to report to her father and prepare a report for the military. There was so much work for her. But she had some time that day, so she wanted to enjoy it in the best way possible, and she wanted Dino's company for that. She asks him if he has any objection serving her. Dino replies that if she wished that, then he will obey it. Rafine was very happy to hear that, and tells the designer to deliver everything they just tried, and also get her usual outfit. Dino wonders what she means by usual clothes. He finds out soon that she usually dresses as a man with hat and mustache while going out in the public. She tells him that she is quite popular, so if people recognize her, then it will be a commotion. So she becomes the bearded baron, and anyone hardly notices it. She was proud of that, but Dino could see that he was mistaken. Everyone in the market were staring at her, and some even recognized her. Then Rafine takes Dino to a restaurant and gets him the famous pescatori of Sandaria for the first time. It was basically shrimps and oysters on noodles. Dino sees the shrimps and freaks out. Rafine tells him that in their nation, fishing is thriving as it borders the sea, and in the inland mountains, tomatoes and olives were commonly harvested. So, pescatore, which allows one to enjoy both sea and mountain specialities, was a very reasonable and loved dish in their nation. Dino sees a fork and asks her if it was some sort of weapon for self-protection. But then she showcases him how to use a fork to eat. Dino tries to replicate her, which she finds very cute. Dino was still stuck on the shrimp. The more he chewed, the more delicious it got. He had never eaten something like that before. He struggles to eat the oyster. He thinks it to be any nut at first and realizes that he cannot eat the shell. Rafine shows him how to eat that as well. Dino finds it equally delicious as the shrimps. He tells Rafine that he likes the dish, and even the food at the camp was better than what he had ever eaten. Then she offers him some noodles with seasoning sprinkled on top of it. Dino tries it and the spices kicks in. His mouth burns, and he feels like he ate poison. Rafine chuckles and tells him to relax. She tells him that it was vinegar with peppers from the tropics that goes well with the tomato dishes. She assures him that he will soon know its deliciousness if he does not think that it's poison. She offers him another bite. After the second bite, Dino actually gets what she was saying. She tells him that Sandaria was also active in trade and brings in all sort of goods and people across the sea. She tells him that they should go to the square after eating where the victory parade will take place the day after. The early bird had already begun. She was expecting to see various dishes and performances from different countries. Dino gets curious. They goes to the square after having the meal and he sees acts that he had never seen before. Entertainment was never a part of his life, but now he was experiencing all that which he could only dream of. He even dances with Rafine. In the end, she takes him to her favorite spot to experience a beautiful set in the sea horizon. Dino feels like the sea was burning. He had also never seen beautiful sceneries like that. He usually waited for the light so that his suffering would end and he would get closer to his freedom. But now he could resent the sinking sun. It was the first time he felt that way about a day ending. Rafine tells him that she wanted him to know about the country that she is trying to protect and asks him what he thinks about Florence. Dino replies that back in his nation, suffering was something one could find everywhere. The sound of laughter was terrifying for him as it only came from the oppressors. But Sandaria was different. Despite having many different races, he never saw any slaves chained, any being wiped anywhere on the streets. The laughter felt warm and made him feel happy, unlike ever before. He thanks her for all that. The people around them were respecting Rafine's privacy and pretending to not notice her. Only she did not know that. Dino saw that as well. He tells Rafine that Sandaria is a very nice and kind country, and as her sword, he will be very happy if he can help her to protect it. Rafine smiles, and then the carriage arrives. Rafine tells him that he now belongs to her newly established unit, and its details will be provided to him soon. She gives him his first mission, to attend the first peace conference as her bodyguard in 10 days. She commands him to head to the officer's dormitory by the carriage and prepare for the mission. Dino takes her command and tells her that he will try his best to not disappoint her. While he was leaving, she stops and tells him to remember that before her sword, he was also a human, and he must remember that. She takes out her hat and mustache and tells him that he might just know about killing for now, but soon he will learn many new things. Like new, delicious food, a girl to love, and more knowledge about the world. She advises him to cherish all of that. She hopes that her country can become a place he would like to protect. She once again welcomes him to Sandaria. Dino leaves in the carriage. Rafine tells Yaris that Dino, who overcame the curse, might have the talent for magic, but he was not able to see it who had been there all along. Yaris was this big magical bird creature who was visible to her, but not Dino. Meanwhile, nobles in the Eustacia Kingdom of Magic were all freaking out after knowing that 70% of their forces were blown out in just a single battle. They clearly underestimated Sandaria. They knew that if they try to invade now, then they will fail to defend Old Estovia. They talks about the ceasefire and the prisoner exchange plan, and to reorganize their army in that gap. But the gap was only of 30 days in which it was very hard to secure the cooperation of the other princes. They even thinks about proposing a peace treaty instead of a temporary ceasefire. But then they realizes that they will be doomed in the next imperial election if they does that. Then they plans to cover the 5th prince's blunder by his own family. On the other hand, Elsa was still depressed and was living at the broken Colosseum. She drinks day and night lying naked and thinks about how she found out Dino when they were little. Dino was hurt and sad and sat alone at a corner when she spotted him. She went to him and applied ointment on his injuries. She found his face very cute and a potential handsome man in the future. That's how she brought him to the Colosseum. But now he was gone, and she missed him more than she thought. An envoy arrives there from the Fifth Prince's faction, and out it arrives, the security mercenary officer, Raha. She tells Elsa that her room smells worse than an opium den, and not at all like any noble's sleeping quarters. She tells Elsa that due to the prince's reckless bravery, the defense line has been utterly destroyed. So, the House of Carnelian, being the relatives of the prince, must take the responsibility and defend the Empire's territory at all cost. She tells Elizabeth to attend the peace conference and negotiate peace and prevent the invasion of the barbarian tribes. If she fails, then the loyal subjects of the Empire would not forgive her. She tells Eliza that they were planning to make her take the fall on her head, and asks her if they should kill the messenger as a warning. Eliza tells Raha to simply pass the message that she understood. Raha asks her if she was all right. Eliza replies that she does not really care about any of that. The first peace conference was important for the future of Sandria. Rafine and her troop also departs from the capital city Florence for the peace conference. Dino was also there when Rafine had briefly stopped to take a bath. Gilbert seemed to have not much problem with him recently. Dino tells him that he heard that he gave him blood when he was cursed. He thanks Gilbert for saving his life. Gilbert refuses to admit it clearly and tells him to focus on the mission. He also tells Dino that any soldier from Sandria would not miss a chance to save the life of a comrade. Then Rafine sneaks in there below the curtains and teases Gilbert. Gilbert gets angry. She tells them that she understands the mission and its importance, that if the negotiations go well, then the war will end. But was that really the case? Rafine, while bathing, tells them that the peace talk is not really rational for Sandria, as a non-aggression treaty only works between nations with equal power. So, she predicts that the goal most probably was to prevent a counter-invasion until their military reorganizes, and once that is done, then Eustacia might invade again. Dino asks her if that means she has no intention of making peace. Rafine gets out of the bath and tells them that she would refuse, but the king and the first prince seemed quite eager. Their joy when the peace conference was proposed was something else entirely. They were ready to jump at peace even under unfavorable conditions, which was the reason why the second princess made them their representative for Sandaria. Gilbert's chuckles knowing those two. Rafine tells them that the king might be deceived by the immediate peace, thinking that Eustacia would keep such a promise. Dino concludes that the king was simply not as brave as Rafine. Rafine gets out of the cloth enclosement and tells him that her father was trying to believe in Eustacia. He has the courage to trust others, and she calls herself the coward for measuring others' intentions with her own sense of reasons. 6 years ago, her father told her that the military service is mandatory for them, and that strong authority is a drug that corrupts those in power. The more she will rely on it, the less she can do without it. He told her to build a country that is loved by the people and thought of as worth protecting. He wanted the people to want Sandaria and not the other way around. Rafine tells them that she does not have the courage to believe that, and that is why he respects his courage, which created the current Sandaria. She believed that her role was to turn her father's ideal into reality. She plans to sell their recent victory at a high price, right at the edge of not breaking the peace. She proceeds to sleep as the next day was going to be quite long. Dino feels like she was not coward at all, like she said. Gilbert tells him to not take everything so seriously. He explains him that Rafine has a habit of being so humble that she tends to belittle herself out of respect for kings and princes. He tells Dino that they know that she was nobility, and that should be enough. Dino agrees. Dino praises him and he starts fighting him again. Gilbert really hated praises for sure. The next day at noon, they arrives the location where the peace conference was supposed to happen, but it was a ruin. Gilbert tells Rafine that there used to be a checkpoint spanning the border between Eustacia and Sandaria, but it was burned down in the recent invasion. There was a long table placed across the border and the meeting would be held there. The rule was simple. Only one representative and 2 aides can participate from each nation while the other forces will remain at a distance. Gilbert tells Dino that the enemy will likely come with military officers, so in case of emergency, they will have to act as Rafine's shield. Soon, the representatives of Eustacia arrives, and they seize that it was Elizabeth Carnelian with an old man and Raha. Eliza and Dino both were shocked to see each other there. Especially Eliza could not hold back her emotions after seeing that Dino was alive. She was blindly running at him, but then Rafine stops her with her baton and tells her that if she will cross the border, then it will be considered as invasion. Rafine could understand that Eliza must be the one who made Dino do all the terrible things, but now he was a free man. She tells Eliza that he is a respectful citizen of their nation, and she cannot call him back. She forgives Eliza for that one step into her territory for once, and asks her to get back to her seat. Eliza was pissed to see that kind of behavior from her. The old man calls Eliza back and tells her that the peace conference was very important for their family. Eliza keeps quiet and gets back to her seat. Dino was trembling and Rafine sees that. Then she begins the conference. Rafine tells them that in exchange of signing a non-aggression pact, Eustacia would pay 100 million imperial dollars in reparations in 10 installments. She denies to accept that proposal. She tells them that one reason is that the amount is too small. Sandaria have lost several facilities and suffered human casualties from the invasion, for which the estimated damage amount was around 300 million imperial dollars, and if they include compensation, then it will be even higher. And another reason was that during the 10-year period, if they change their mind and stop the payment, then they cannot tolerate that. The old man asks her if she does not trust the Eustacia Empire. She replies that after they set fire to their home, killed their families and invaded their land, there was not reason for Sandaria to trust them. Then she offers her final proposal, a lump sum payment of 500 imperial dollars. The old man's face dries up. Rafine tells him that if they show that much sincerity, then the previous invasion will not be seen as a selfish act seeking gain, and will be marked as an accident caused by a sad misunderstanding. In reality, the estimated damage was over $200 million. Realistically, they should settle around 300 million. The Carnelian family was related to the mother of the 5th prince. The reason she was in such a dishonorable position as the representative of peace delegation was because she has been discarded by the majority faction. She understood that she will have to put some unreasonable conditions to fail their plan of buying time and reorganizing their army. She was doing it just to honor her father's intention to seek peace. On top of that, she was planning to extract as much as they can from them. Eliza's father tells Rafine that they will show sincerity, but the amount of 500 million imperial dollar was just too much. But then Eliza replies that she agrees to the deal. Everyone was shocked to hear that. Eliza tells Rafine that her family will pay the compensation amount in one lump sum, but in exchange, she will have to return Dino to her. Dino looks terrified. Her father tells Eliza that she was crossing the line now. He had given up on the family head, but he still was her guardian. He tells her to not make arbitrary decisions during a major family crisis. She calls her father noisy and summons her magical Medusa. Her father turns into stone after taking a look into her eyes. Rafine's party was shocked to see that. Then Eliza tells them that no one dares to complain to her. She believed that she can raise 500 million if she sells the Colosseum, and she did not need it anyways. She only wanted Dino at this point. She asks Dino if he also wants to get back with her. Dino recalls all the trauma at the Colosseum. She tells him that it was an order, and if he does not obey, then she will make it painful for him. Dino really did not want to return to the hell he escaped from. She tortured him, made his kill so many people, and even used his body for pleasure whenever she wanted. Dino would never return that place again. But then he remembers Rafine's ambition to honor her father's ideals. With a heavy heart, he decides that if it is necessary for Rafine, then he will sacrifice himself. But Rafine tells Eliza that, as she said before, Dino is now a citizen of Sandaria and not her slave. She bangs the table and shouts at Eliza for thinking of Sandaria as a slave-trading nation. She calls it disrespectful. She tells Gilbert and Dino that the meeting ends there and no deal will be made with Eustacia. She asks them to return to Florence. She grabs Dino's hand and it was cold. She felt bad for putting him through all that. She would not bring him if she knew that would happen. She promises him that Eliza would never touch him again. Eliza gets very upset and summons her magical Medusa fully. It breaks the table and its tail attacks them both. Gilbert comes to their rescue. He summons his magical beast and blocks the sting from the tail. He had many flying swords that he could control however he wants. He warns Eliza that if she dares to insult his master, then she will not see another day. Raha summons her magical beast as well. Gilbert was shocked to see that it was the MacGuffin guardian Seraphian. Fight breaks out between Gilbert and Raha. Rafine realizes that the opponents were quite skilled. Dino gets in front of her. She tells him that he might not see the magic, so she will be his eyes. She asks him to follow her instructions, but Dino replies that he will be fine and asks her to evacuate to a safe place. Dino was locked in. He realizes that it was the path he chose for himself. It was pointless to back off now. He swore to protect Rafine. It should not be the other way around. He takes out his swords and tells Eliza on the face that he is not her slave anymore. Rafine feels proud of him, and Eliza was furious as expected. She commands her Medusa to kill Dino. She tells him that he was and will be her slave forever. Dino closes his eyes. He stopped relying on his vision. He was what they call killing instinct. He could not see magic, but he could feel the coldness that was approaching him, the sense of murderous intent. He believed in his senses that he honed in the Colosseum over years. The shape, the density, the speed to the enemy. He slowly starts seeing it all. He swings his sword and cuts the Medusa's heads. Dino could now clearly see the monster in front of him. Eliza was shocked. She decides to use that to her advantage and opens the Medusa's eyes that earlier turned her father to stone. Dino feels a fear in his spine, even though he had swords in his hand. He understood that the attack cannot be defended against. He moves quickly and takes the broken table and disappears somewhere. Eliza sees that he was using the rubble as cover, moving from one blind spot of Medusa to the other. Rafine was amazed to see that Dino was doing all that without actually seeing the magic. It was impressive and terrifying at the same time. She calls Dino a genius for that. Subtly, Eliza senses something above and tells the Medusa to look up, but there was just Dino's cloak there. Dino appears to be behind her. She was caught off guard. Dino strikes the Medusa body with his blades. Slashing the Medusa injures Eliza as well. Dino did not know that the magical beasts were connected to the master like that. Then Raha attacks Dino from behind. Dino blocks but gets blown away. Raha sees that if someone does not heal Eliza quickly, then she will bleed to death. Troops from both the nations shows up and were about to go on a full-scale war. But then Rafine shouts at them to stop. She asks Gilbert to put down the weapons. She tells her soldiers that the conclusion of the peace treaty has been reached. There was no real meaning to suffer more casualties there. She tells Raha that if they retreat now, then she would not pursue them and they can take Eliza to heal and save her life. She asks Raha to choose if she will fight a losing battle or she will save her master. Raha replies that killing her is not her job and lowers her weapons. She tells the healer in the troop to quickly heal Eliza. Eustacia retreats. Gilbert apologizes Rafine for not being able to contain Raha. She was more skilled than he thought. Rafine replies that it was okay as they did not have any casualties at the peace conference. Dino was still in shock. Rafine asks him if he was okay. She tells him that the monster that he saw was a magic called the Guardian Deity. Magic was the art of materializing emotions and impulses. Love and compassion heal people's wounds, and anger and hatred produce destruction. And a skilled magician could create not only emotions, but also the self as a tangible entity in the world. That's what the Guardian Deity was. Everyone in the conference table expected Dino had one. But the Guardian Deity was also the practitioner themselves. Any damage to the Guardian Spirit reflects back onto the practitioner. Rafine asks him if he was not filled with such a deep hatred that he wanted to kill, even if he was scared to the point of trembling. Dino replies that he was a little confused. When he was little, Eliza truly cared for him. She seemed to love him. Dino tells Rafine that he was treated kindly by Eliza before. He realizes something. Humans adopt a lot from the environment. Like he was born into Eustacia and was taught that taking from others is the norm. He wonders if Eliza was also a victim of the Empire's ideologies. Rafine thanks him for protecting her. Dino feels happy to hear that. She then announces that now that the peace conference has been broken down, their path forward is set. But before that, she needed to inform her father. She gives a letter to her guardian deity, and Dino also could finally see it after grasping the concept of magic. It was a big Seg. Rafine tells it to deliver the letter to her father and the Seg flies off. It was fast, very fast. Dino was amazed. Rafine then tells him that Guardians comes in all shapes and ability. For example, Gilbert had 6 floating swords, all possessing the same skill level as Gilbert. It automatically attacks enemies as a close combat specialized guardian. Eliza had the power to turn anything pierced by her gaze into stone. She tells about her guardian Zeke that it might lack combat capability, but while typical guardians has a maximum range of 50 meters, it had a range up to 10 kilometers. It was a very capable messenger with very high flight speed. Gilbert asks Rafine if their path was now set. She replies that the talks have collapsed and thus war was unavoidable. There was no need to wait for an invasion anymore. She was ready to make the first move and march into Eustacia. On the other hand, The healers informs Raha that they managed to save the life of Eliza for now, but she needs more rest. The healer asks Raha what will happen to them. Raha replies that she would not know and tells her to ask the esteemed members of the faction. The healer looks disappointed and tells Raha that she will just go and pick some flowers and enters the jungle. Raha knew that she would not come back. It was just obvious. Even the magical soldiers they brought with them were deserting behind the scenes. They knew that they were all rats running around on a sinking ship. Since the talks had broken down, the future of their house was already decided. A sacrificial offering was necessary to elevate another prince. If the deal falls through, those who fled will quickly snitch, and soon the pursuers will catch up even if they escape to another territory. Raha was worried about how they will protect Eliza in that situation. It was too much stress for her. Her only relief was alcohol. Meanwhile, Eliza was burning in agony. She now hated Rafine more than ever. She was stealing Dino from her just like Liad did years ago. Anyone who tried to take Dino away from her was evil according to her. The first prince, Elric Rio Sandaria, who was also the diplomatic advisor, tells his sister, the second princess, Catherine Rio Sandaria, also, the financial advisor, that things were getting bad. Catherine could tell that as he was not eating much less than he usually does. Elric tells her that using the citizens as bargaining chips was out of question, but they did not have to kill anyone. He asks the maid to refill his breads. Ops? Someone was not eating, I guess. Catherine asks Eliza if she intentionally wanted the war to continue and deliberately sabotage the negotiations. She asks her if she enjoyed showcasing her talent. Eliza keeps quiet. Their father tells Catherine to stop saying such stuff in the family fathering. Catherine was not happy to be lectured. She asks her father what should Rafine do from there on. The king replies that she was against the peace treaty from the beginning, which means there is a path to peace without the treaty that she believed in. Rafine replies yes. She tells them that it was because they do not make peace with the empire that the path of the anti-Eustacia alliance with the eastern countries remains open. Elric seems confused. Rafine explains that the empire's invasion was not just a problem for Sandria, but for many other countries. Their border nations had already been invaded earlier, and it poses a threat to them in the near future. Sandaria will serve as the standard border to form a mutual military alliance with those nations and create a balance of power. That was the only way to end the war, she says. Elric argues with her that it was impractical. The eastern countries were fearful of the empire, but that was exactly the reason why no one wants to turn the empire of Eustacia into an enemy, because for them, the idea of defeating the empire was unrealistic and impossible. Rafine tells them that they will show them that it was not impossible. They believed that they can do that by proving their victory, but merely pushing them back was not enough. She suggests a counter-invasion of the former Estovia territory. She wanted to show the reality of the anti-Eustacia alliance not just by repelling them out of their territory, but by taking some of their territory. Elric tells her that if they does that, then they will never be able to make peace, and his job as the diplomatic advisor will get harder. And even Catherine objected that as the financial advisor, she cannot allow the fund to be spent on invasion instead of defense. She tells further that deals can only be established with equal partners. That was the principle of business. The idea of forming an alliance was not wrong, as per her, but the counteroffensive must be carried out within a month, she says. That was her condition. Continuous sluggish expenses becomes a mental burden for the citizens, so if they make a big expenditure now, she promises to persuade them as a consultant for the conglomerate. She asks Rafine if she, as the military advisor, has the ability to successfully counterattack. Rafine replies that, as she said earlier herself, she is a genius of war and would not lose in a fight. The discussion was over. The king speaks that it was sad how people love killing each other just because they belong to different countries. She was sad and had tears in his eyes. He tells his kids to do it in a way without involving the innocent people. King Sigmund Rio Sandaria tells them that he tried writing letters to other kings many times to solve it by proposing a naked sumo match between kings, but failed each time. The kids knew that those letters would be burnt the moment someone reads them. He tells the kids that he understands their decision and will coordinate with General Carlson and allow the counteroffensive to proceed. Rafine tells the king that she will be honored to accept the great responsibility. Sigmund asks them if they would like to discuss something else. Catherine replies that she has something to add. She says that she has something she wants to propose to eliminate the refugees committing crimes that have been increasing lately. On the other hand, Dino was training non-stop to get stronger. He was hitting logs very fast and hard. Elena, the granddaughter of the dormitory head of the single women's dorm, sees him training and gets rizzed. She asks him if he was doing sword training. Dino replies to her that for him, swordsmanship was not just about swinging a sword. It was a means to defeat his enemies. He wanted to be able to fight even without them. Elena calls him a weirdo and gives him towel. She blues when he wipes his body. Dino tells her that he can prepare his towels on his own, so she does not have to bother. Elena replies that she was doing it because she likes it. Dino praises her by saying that she was very caring, and everyone in the dorm appreciates it. Elena looks away and tells him that she likes it for different reasons. Dino was not sure what she was talking about. Then she tells him that her grandpa sent a message from the dorm head. She was told to tell him that his word was ready. Actually, after the peace conference, Gilbert told Dino to get a new sword when he returns to Florence. He even offers to introduce him to a good blacksmith. Dino told Gilbert that the edges of his words might seem dull, but he likes it. Gilbert told him that he might think it is okay, but it was too shabby for an officer's ceremonial weapon. It was not just about the appearance. Shabby sword can inflict unnecessary pain on the enemy. It was a breach of etiquette for a soldier. Now he was a soldier in the Sandaria military. His shame will be the shame of Sandaria. After all that, Dino finally understands and agrees to meet the blacksmith. What he had received from Lloyd was not something tangible. It was something that existed in his heart. He wanted to become a person who is not ashamed to be the sword of Lord Rafine. Dino goes to the blacksmith to receive his new sword. He shows his new pair of swords to him, and Dino was amazed to see such beautiful and shining swords. He thanks the blacksmith. The blacksmith grabs him and tells him that it was not just an accessory. He was praising the sword without even testing its sharpness. That was disrespectful for him. Dino explains him that he did not mean it. The old man takes him to the back to do a cut test. There were 5 logs of wood stacked one above other. The old man tells Dino that if the sword can cut through it, then it can cut through most armors. He hands them over and tells Dino to strike the logs. Dino feels something unprecedented after holding those swords. It feels to him like they were alive. He jumps up and strikes the logs and cuts through them like butter. The blacksmith tells him that he discarded softness and committed to toughness to match his sword technique. It was closer to an axe than a sword regarding the power. Although the weight had increased significantly, the center of gravity and shape replicated his previous swords. But he was sure that with Dino's muscle strength, it would soon feel natural to him. Dino was using a well-made sword for the first time, and he was impressed to see how well it cut through the logs. He tells the old man that he will pay him the price of the swords. The old man replies that he has a contract with the Dainsleif family. So, as it was a request from them, it was a part of the contract. He tells Dino to thank Gilbert. The blacksmith could tell that Dino was not used to other people's kindness. Dino tells him that since he became Rafine's officer, he's been treated well by so many people. He was happy about it and wondered if he even deserves it. The blacksmith tells him to remember one thing. That peace can be protected by a sword, but it cannot be created by one. The people around him were being kind to him because they have kind memories from someone else. It was all connected. The old man tells him to do the same for others. Like that the chain of kindness will go on forever, and the world would be a better place to live. He promises Dino that if he does that, then he would not feel guilty about anything anymore. Dino smiles and replies, yes. Then the old man tells him that if he came all the way there, then he should spend some cash that he brought on sightseeing. The people in the downtown would be happy, he says. Dino was also thinking about that. He had been very busy lately. He wanted to explore the town a bit more. He asks the blacksmith if he can recommend him some place to visit. The old man gets excited like a kid and tells him that if he came to downtown, then he must visit Magenta Street. It was a sin to come to downtown and not go there. Dino replies that he will definitely explore it. The old man tells him that a lively young man like him must go there. Dino wonders what he means by that. He finds out soon when he goes there. Magenta Street was what we call a red light area. Beautiful women were trying to lure in men all around. Dino freaks out. He was trying to escape, but then a girl grabs his arm. She asks him if he would like to play with her. She tells him that because he was a cute soldier, she will give him some special service. Dino tells her that he was not there to do that. Then she suddenly pushes him away and snatches his wallet. She tells him that he is naive and will die in a battlefield easily. With that, she runs away very fast. Dino realizes that she was a thief. She spreads chaos all over the street by running like wind. After getting enough distance, she stops thinking that the guy cannot follow her that far. She knew that the men who comes to Magenta Streets have plenty of money, and she had learned to take advantage of that. She was happy to see that with that much money she can hook up her kids as well. but she was shocked when she turns around and finds Dino casually standing there. He gently asks her to return his wallet as the money was important to him. She tells him that he has got some speed to catch up with her, but he cannot do that for long, and runs away with the wallet again, and even with more
Oh, you
speed, she jumps off
underestimated Mr.
buildings and
Man, but
roads and gets quite away. But when she turns, Dino was right behind
there
her
he
like
is
some
again.
shadow again, and he was not even breaking a sweat. She was blown away by that. He tells her that even if she needs money, she cannot steal it. She runs away again to try something different. She goes to an ally, and there was a rope tied to the ground tightly from the roof. It was her emergency escape. She cuts the rope and moves up as the weight falls down. After going up, she removes the rope. Dino sees that and goes to a crouch position. She laughs at him and asks him if he was planning to jump all the way up there. What she did not know was that Dino could actually do that. He leaps up and grabs a railing up there with his incredible grip strength. He then uses his strength to throw himself up and lands on the roof. The girl starts running away again. She was out of options. Only one way was left. She goes to somewhere far distant and Dino follows her. He tells her that she should explain why she was stealing. The girl laughs and tells him that he will get into trouble now. A bunch of muscleheads surrounds Dino all of a sudden. She lured him into her place. She warns him that if he does not give up now, then he will be punished, and no one will come to save him in that remote area. Dino calmly replies that it would not happen. They had received the money from Rafine to buy necessary items. He refuses it, give it away to a thief. A guy shows a sword to Dino's face and asks him to obey. Dino looks at the guy's loose grip on the sword and tells him that he cannot kill people. The girl shouts and tells him to not underestimate them. She tells Dino that they are Estovians. The soldiers only protects the big cities and important people and abandon little small villages. They barely escaped with their life. No one was going to protect them, so they decided to do whatever it takes to survive. Dino apologizes to her for questioning their determination and tells them that they have more reasons to not hurt anyone. He changes his expression and tells them that murderers have different kind of eyes. He shows them that death stare and they all freezes with fear. The girl starts trembling and tears rolls down her eyes. She still struggles and grabs her sword, but Dino moves at her without a hint, and before she realizes, he grabs her hands and tells her that they are strong for trying to survive and all that. But he remembers what the blacksmith told him, to share kindness. He tells them that he wants to help them just the way he was helped. Dino takes the girl to the dormitory where the dormitory told her that in Sandaria there is a refugee application office. If she applies there, then they can get assistance with housing and employment. It was a recent initiative that was yet to be well known. The girl was shocked to hear that they were ready to help foreigners in their nation. The dormitory head tells her that he has in fact already sent the request application to the office. Then Elena comes in running and tells her grandfather that the person in charge of the refugee will come there soon. A second later, Catherine enters the office. Everyone there freaks out to see the second princess inside that room. Catherine tells them that the refugee desk was her idea, so it was obvious that she would come. She looks at the girl and asks her if she was the one who committed all the thefts that were reported. The girl feels ashamed and, looking away, replies sorry. But then Catherine pats on her shoulders and tells her that she was not at fault, as anyone would anything to survive. She takes the blame of the administration for not looking and responding for the people who have no place to call home. The girl gets emotional to hear all that. She proposes to the dormitory head that they should set up a window, but if the information is not well communicated, the people who need support would not receive it. She tells the girl to inform her friends about the window quickly. The girl with tears in her eyes replies that she will happily do that. Before leaving, the girl also thanks heartily to Dino. She even tells him sorry for mugging him earlier. Dino replies that he just consulted with the dorm manager and nothing else. The girl replies that he did help them, as if they had not come there, then they would never know about the refugee initiative. Dino feels very warm after that. He remembers the time Rafine helped him. Then she leaves. Catherine asks Dino if he made the report. Dino replies yes. She tells him that neglecting struggling refugees leads to a deterioration of public safety. So they were able to respond before it became a serious issue. Dino feels embarrassed. Catherine tells him that she is asking her father for more help in promoting the refugee support, but it was quite difficult during wartime. She then tells him that he has a face that she has not seen before. She wonders if it was their first meeting. Dino tells her that his name is Dino, and he was taken by Rafine under her wing from being a prisoner. He tells Catherine that just like her, the royal family of Sandaria was full of kind people. Catherine's mood suddenly shifts and she gets bitter. She tells Dino that if he is a sword slave of Rafine, then she regret thanking him. She tells Dino that she is not kind and would never try to be. She did not do it out of sympathy. She wanted the refugees to be productive and work and produce through consumption. She explains how the state also needs refugees just like the refugees need the state. It was not a unilateral help but a business deal. She claims that she does nothing out of kindness. She says that her war-loving sister is good at luring men into her side. She was going away, but Dino grabs her wrist and stops her. He calmly asks her to take back her words about Rafine. HR tells her that no one hates war more than Rafine, so he refuses to take that disrespect. Catherine asks him if he has any idea whose arm he was daring to grab. Then Elena and her grandfather comes rushing and takes Dino away and apologizes to Catherine. The old man tells her that it was their fault for not teaching Dino the ways of a Sandaria soldier. Catherine warns him one last time and then leaves. The dorm head scolds Dino for doing that. Dino tells them that he just got a bit carried away. The dorm head tells him that it was not really his fault. Lady Catherine was usually wise and fair, but when it comes to Rafine, she becomes short-sighted and unfair. The reason was obvious. War significantly depletes the economy, so as the financial advisor, she must be frustrated. Dino reports at the military command headquarters the next day. Rafine tells him that his timing was perfect and asks him to join her for some coffee. Dino was happy to join her, but he had no idea what coffee was. Rafine tells him that it was a speciality from the south that comes across the sea. Dino freaks out when he sees that it was a dark black drink. He asks her if it was okay to drink it. Rafine replies that it normally tastes bitter, so she adds plenty of sugar to it and then some cream on top of it. Dino takes a sip and feels bitter, sour, and sweet all at the same time. But later he drinks more and enjoys it. Rafine then tells him that 1 cup of coffee cost more than a captain's daily wage. Dino loses his mind to hear that. He never had something that expensive in his life. Rafine tells him that she was taught by her military strategy teacher once that she should have at least one expensive hobby. Dino asks her the reason. Rafine tells him that her teacher told her that she is very wise and kind that often becomes the reason for people to take actions. But the masses were materialistic and cannot strive without rewards. So, even if she serves the people, she might sometimes feel resentment that the people does not serve the country. Rafine told him that she also received a lot from the people and does not regret anything while helping them. Rafine could not understand her teacher's words when she was a child, but after growing up, she understood it. She was buried with work. But no matter how much busy she gets, when she finds time for herself to drink that expensive coffee, she feels like she is worth it, and it relaxes her and motivates her to do all those work. She tells him that it was okay if coffee was not to his taste, but she heard that he already found his reward. Dino asks her what does she mean. Rafine smiles and tells him that she heard he had quite some fun at the Magenta Streets during his 4 days off period. Dino coughs the coffee and tells her that she is misunderstood. Rafine tells him that it was okay if he has some fun. At least she was no longer worried about if he will fit in Sandaria. Dino keeps denying the allegations. He tells her that he had no idea that it was such a place. While she was joking about it, Dino remembers what Kitaharin said him about Rafine and looks sad. He then tells her that he met her sister and they had a chat. Rafine laughs when she gets to know that he mentioned her in front of Kitaharin. Dino asks her if she was in bad terms with her sister. She replies that she is disliked by many people for various reasons. But in her heart, there was no hate for her sister. She tells Dino that there was no one she knows as fair and just as Catherine. She gives example that her sister referred to the refugee office as cold function. It was a manifestation of fairness to help functionally without being choosy based on emotions. She tells him further that it was Catherine who encouraged her to represent at the conference and executed the funding for the war effort in front of their father again. Rafine was proud of her for all these traits. She calls her smart. That's why Rafine wanted to show results from her end as well. Then she commands Dino that he will participate in the counter-invasion as a captain. The objective of their mission was to push the front line up to the Ludea River flowing through the center of Estovia. She was thinking that if they managed to utilize the natural moat, then they can gain a geographical advantage and maneuver favorability in the future. They had also got the info that the Empire has already supported the 15th Prince Heinrich and organized a large-scale defense army. In the Empire, as per the imperial law established by the first emperor, Gottfried, only princes were allowed to command forces of 500 or more soldiers. That law was designed to guarantee the rights of the royal family while minimizing preparations for internal strife and focusing all efforts on invasion. She tells Dino that it was unlikely that they can win against Eustacia if they face them head-on, but the more power is protected, the less functional it becomes. Plus, according to imperial law, if the prince is killed in battle or captured, they bear the weakness of not being able to inherit command from the lords. Aside from the prince, there were generals and staff officers, but they stand on the legal basis of the prince. The use of military power on one's own after the prince's death will result in rebellion leading to extreme punishment of the entire family. Naturally, no one wanted to do it. Rafine tells Dino that their path to survival lies there. A short-term decisive battle to defeat the prince and stripe away the army's functionality. She introduces a special assault unit called Chernobog and makes him the captain of that unit. She asks him first if he wants to do it for her. Without any second thoughts, Dino accepts it and tells her that if she commands him to kill, he will kill. If she commands him to die, he will sacrifice his life. Most importantly, he did not want the poor people of Estovia to be driven out of their home again. Rafine was proud of him. She then tells him there were only 3 members in his unit, including him. One was training and another one was recovering. Dino assumes that it means he will be participating alone this time. Rafine tells him that it will be a joint operation with the 6th Division for that reason. She asks him to cooperate with them. Dino understands the assignment. Meanwhile, Heinrich, the 15th prince, had rich in his name for no reason. In reality, he was drowned in debts from various powerful gamblers. Heinrich tells them that even if he was losing a lot at casino, he was still a prince. So, they should not come to his house to collect money like that. One guy replies that if he was not a prince, then the casino would have imprisoned him and confiscated his assets a long time ago. He was so much in debt that even selling himself would not be enough. The guy reminds him that they were all operating with backing of the 3rd prince, who was renowned as the next emperor. So, he, if continues to be selfish, then it would be in trouble if loses his title of a prince. They told him to pay his debts before the deadline and leaves. Heinrich was deeply distressed. And then Schalke, a staff, comes and tell him that someone was there to visit him. Heinrich tells him that he was busy, but when he hears that those people have a solution for his debts, then he goes to talk to them. A man gives him some gold coins and asks him to listen his story. He promises Heinrich that if he agrees and takes on the request, then he will pay him 10 times that amount. After the discussion, the man thanks Shackle, the young guy, for passing on their message to the prince. Shackle replies that he does not mind it, as it's duty of a knight to fulfill his lord's wishes. He makes an odd expression and tells them that he also missed the feeling of crushing humans. The other knight looks confused. Shackle asks him if he thought about how could a small guy like him can do it. The knight starts sweating and replies that he did not. But Shackle opens his hands and aims at the knight and claps once. The knight gets instantly crushed on the spot, nearly disappearing. The man who was talking to Heinrich was terrified. Shackle seems to enjoy it a lot. Who was he?
Interesting.
In the beginning of the story, the protagonist, Amachi Kai,
Oh.
Son, you're one of the most promising candidates we've ever seen.
But why are you here?
I just want to get across that finish line, Sergeant Major.
Rangers are the spearhead of the United States Army. Do you understand me?
Hey, slow down, Superman. Making the rest of us look bad.
You can expect your emotional, physical, and mental strength to be pushed to the limit.
Keep your eyes open.
This company's going haywire.
What the hell is that?
Retreat!
Whatever that thing is, it's hunting us. And it won't stop. No comms, no flares, no firearms. We need to move. It's not about us anymore. It's warning everybody that thing's coming.
Rangers, lead the way! All the way!
You gotta be shitting me.
This matchmaker shares her struggle with getting a 40-year-old woman a match.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Kidding.
To say that Hawkman, Absolute Hawkman, dominates Absolute Superman, I don't even know if that's correct, man, because Absolute Superman gets crushed, and it's not even close. Okay, so what this does is this picks up back in the 1940s, specifically the nation of Kahndaq. And what you do is you pick up with Carter Hall, and he says, this is it, right? This is his mark. By God, we've actually found it. And he says the tomb of Teth Adam, undisturbed for more than 3,000 years. Unbelievable, right? I've never seen a vertical antechamber like this. They lined the walls of this well with King Teth's most treasured possessions. And that's where the other guy says, good Lord, if I'm reading these hieroglyphics correctly, some of these items must have been gifts from someplace else. And he says, that's impossible, right? Seemingly, it comes from Thanagar and the Thanagarians. Now, it's going to be a little wonky and a little interesting, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. And so he continues on. So the burial chamber's somewhere below us, right? And that's where Carter says, yes, but we must move carefully. Lazarus is paying us to catalog every inch of this tomb. And that's where he's told, you're right, Dr. Hall, and Lazarus pays well, but Berlin pays better. And this guy slashes the rope of Carter Hall. Now, at that point, you learn this guy's name is Bradford. And this is one of those times when I don't know who this guy is. The only Bradford that I know is Crime Doctor from the old Batman comics back in 1943. Technically, his name's Bradford Thorne, but I don't really know if these two guys are one and the same. I don't know, right? 1940s Batman versus this taking place in the 1940s. But even then, it doesn't really matter. Because at this point, Carter says, like, I never took you for a German fascist. Clearly, we have to edit out some words for the sake of YouTube's AI and their demonetization practices. But Bradford just tells him, never knew how much gold the buggers had, did I? Sorry, Carter, nothing personal, just stay out of my way. And he says, if the legends are true, the power in this tomb could change the course of the war, and there's no way I'm letting the Germans get their hands on this. And in fact, he continues on here, and he says, for a man who's seen so much of the world, you're rather ignorant of its workings. The way of the world was set in stone a long time ago. War is a foregone conclusion, and just because we're fighting that guy does not make us the good guys. So you hang in there, Dr. Hall. And that's where Hall's just like, oh my God, I am slipping. And in that moment, he grabs the mace unintentionally off the wall, just going to grab for something. And at that point, you pick up outside the well, and you've got Lazarus Corp here, right? They're like, oh, you know, there's screams and there's gunfire coming from the pit. But in that moment, Carter Hall appears, and they tell him, right? Put your hands in the air by order of the peacemakers. This dig is property of Lazarus Holdings. And Carter just says, it's all right. I know what it looks like, boys, but trust me, I'm one of the good guys. But this is the crazy thing, because he emerges with the traditional mace of Hawkman and his artificial wings. But this flies in the face, no pun intended, of the whole idea of the Thanagarian mythos as we know it. Because this guy is seemingly deriving his power from Black Adam. Now, he never says Shazam or anything like that, but remember, the Absolute Universe is shifting everything, so it's more theory than anything else. At that point, you pick up where the last issue ended, and Absolute Superman's encounter with Hawkman. And Hawkman just asks him, right, did you hear me, kid? I said I'm one of the good guys. And he says, I'm here to help, and Lord knows you need it. And where he initially goes to introduce himself, Absolute Superman just takes off, right, just disappears. And then he's like, where in the hell did that guy go? And then, like, he comes back, and he's like, sorry, man, a door fell off a plane over Cleveland. And he's like, I'm Superman, right? I like your wings. What were you saying? And the guy's just like, I said, son, that you and I have a lot to talk about. I have been watching you, and I gotta say, you you aren't. And then, of course, Superman takes off again. And he's like, are you kidding? And then he shows back up and he's like, I'm sorry, man. I thought a guy was choking in Omaha, but it turns out he was just laughing really weird. Though, matter of fact, we should probably postpone this conversation to another time because I'm kind of busy. And that's where Hawkman goes to grab him, right? And says, don't do that again. Right? And where Superman tells him there are people in trouble out there, Hawkman actually responds in a pretty interesting way. He says there's always people in trouble. We are talking here. And that's where Superman asks, is that what we are doing? And Hawkman just says, I'm used to people listening when I speak. And Superman tells him, right, you're Grip, you're not from Earth, are you? And that's where Carter just tells him, born and raised in Gotham City before the place went to hell. I wouldn't be caught dead there these days. But then he removes his face and basically stops looking like Shredder. And he says, I am Dr. Carter Hall, archaeologist, retired. But back during the war, when I was flying around busting Germans, they called me Hawkman. And he says, it's the suit that's alien, made of something called nth metal, from the planet Thanagar. Never been there myself, but you're from somewhere out there, right? Have you ever heard of it? And Superman just asks, right, how did you know that? Who told you that I was an alien? And that's where Carter just says, you did, kid, just now. You got a lot to learn, new guy. Let's go for a walk. Now, this is the interesting thing here, because this is why I say it flies in the face of the mythos of Hawkman. There's seemingly no resurrections here, right? It's not as though Carter Hall is just kind of the newest iteration of Hawkman, reborn in a new form, every time he dies or something along those lines. None of that's the case. He just took a weapon that seemingly came from Thanagar and has been using it ever since. So clearly it's prolonging his life and has various aspects to it that basically augment him and so on and so forth. And that's when you switch over to Christopher Smith, right? The Peacemakers. And he says, it's happening. They're bringing this stuff out now. And it looks like the feds who were seizing the assets, agents from Gates. And he says, affirmative, even the stuff from the vault. And of course, because he's talking to someone, but we don't hear what they say, he just asks the question, which crate? And he says, yes, I have eyes on it. And he says, a lot of armed guards. I'll need a full extraction team if you expect me. And then, of course, ultimately he's cut off. And then he says, understand, as you wish, Lady Talia, Lazarus means forever. And at that point, he actually fires on the crate. He doesn't really kill the guys, but then something comes out and starts absorbing them. And so at that point, you switch back over to Carter Hall and Superman. Now, if you know what that is, please do not spoil it in the comments section. It's fairly obvious if you're familiar with the Superman mythos, but please do not spoil it. But at that point, Hawkman tells Superman, right, despite what everybody seems to think these days, freaking out like you're the second coming, you are not the first man who could fly. I wasn't either, and I've been at this a very long time, long enough to see twinkle-toed hotshots like you come and go. And that's where Superman asks, right, there are others, like me, with powers. And Hawkman says, man, there's others right now. Like, what are you talking about? Right? And he says, a bunch of you guys all showed up at the same time. You're telling me that this is some kind of a coincidence. The big bad out east, the witch in the west, some runaway from Project Olympus, whatever the hell it was that landed in Evergreen. Here's a funny thing about this. He doesn't say anything about Martian Manhunter. No one seems to know about Martian Manhunter outside of everybody in his own immediate vicinity. It's kind of cool. He hasn't been referenced by anyone, at least not that I remember. But at that point, Superman just says, I don't know who you're talking about. All I hear are the screams. And Hawkman tells him, yeah, guys like you are always the same. You pop up one day, all, hey mom, look what I can do. Convince yourself that you're special and unstoppable, and you figure why not change the world overnight. Iron Monroe, Wesley Dodds, Dr. Fate, Oliver Queen? And he asks him, do those names mean anything to you? And Superman just says no. And he asks, do you know why? And Superman says, because I'm from space. And Hawkman just says, because they were stupid. And he says, someone told me once the way of the world was set in stone a long time ago, and they were sure right. You cannot change anything overnight. You want to make a difference? You don't do it by basking in the spotlight like you have been doing. And where Superman asks him, like, are you talking about me? Like, what are you referring to? And Hawkman says, getting your picture taken all over the globe, saving a busload here, a plane full there. Do you think there will not be a response? And Superman's kind of flabbergasted, right? Like a response to saving people. And that's where Hawkman says, 80 years I have been at this. I've saved millions by now, probably billions, and not one of them knows my name because I did it the smart way. And Superman asks, What way was that? And you kind of get this flashback to the moment when Carter Hall had killed Bradford, literally smashed his head against the side of the well using the mace. And he says, I can show you, kid, those others, they wouldn't listen. And I don't want you to end up just like them. And he says, you're a rookie. Best to listen to the advice of somebody who's walked this beat for damn near a century. And so Superman asks, then what's your advice? And Hawkman tells him, for starters, you gotta let go of this feud with Lazarus. And he says, you've wounded them, but you cannot destroy a company that powerful. There's folks who will not allow it. Powerful people, the kind of powerful people. Trying to beat Lazarus Corp is suicide. Because lest we forget, Absolute Superman does not know about Absolute Joker. And neither Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, or any of those guys know about the Absolute Justice League. So there are forces at work out there that Superman has no understanding of. Ra's al Ghul, he was just the beginning. Right? It only gets deeper from there. And so that's where Hawkman tells him, you have to learn to work with Lazarus. And Superman asks him, right, like, work with Lazarus. The people who tortured me, brutalized my friends, who want to subjugate this planet, the people who tried to make me a mass murderer, why would I ever work with them? And Hawkman just says, I don't think you understand the bigger picture here, kid. And then he realizes, he's like, wait a minute, you're about to run off again, aren't you? And he says, Superman, you walk away from me now after I've stuck my neck out to come here, and we're gonna have a problem, both you and me. And that's where Superman just says, okay, Hawkman, I won't walk away from you, and just like flies away. And at that point, it pisses him off. But something that you're noticing here, this is not the Carter Hall that we are familiar with in the main DC universe. Yes, Carter Hall can be rough around the edges. Yes, he can be a bit of a dick. But the reality of Carter Hall is that at the end of the day, he's a guy you want in your corner. There's a reason why he's a part of the Justice Society of America. He's a stand-up guy. Don't misunderstand, if you piss him off, he'll break every bone in your body and think nothing of it. But for the most part, he's nothing like this. A guy who says, work with villains. Why? Because it's better to be the devil's right hand than in his path. Carter Hall in the main DC universe would never operate that way. And so at that point, you switch back over to Metropolis, specifically to the Daily Planet. And this is one of the things that I love about what Jason Aaron is doing with the Absolute Universe. When Lois shows up here, she's like, what the hell, right? There's no way this can be right. And this guy walks up and he's like, let me guess, you're lost. And he's like, you must be looking for the Daily Planet office. And she's like, yeah, I mean, am I crazy, or like, shouldn't this be it? And that's where this guy, clearly Perry White, tells her, in the tower across the street, the one with the shiny globe on top, you're about 20 years too late. That's not the Daily Planet anymore. And he says the old Daily Planet got turned into condos years ago. And I hear they're pretty nice. The newspaper office is on the 8th floor of this asbestos-filled rat hole, the one that looks like it's about to collapse. And he's like, good luck with the interview. And Lois asks him, right, like, how in the world did you know I was here for an interview? And he says, because I've read your work, Miss Lane, a bit more Faulkner than Hemingway for my taste, especially when you're talking about this Superman fella. But you'll wrestle the words into shape soon enough, because you've got the goods. And that's where he introduces himself as Perry White. And he says, editor on the Planet's Metro desk for 35 years, up until about 10 minutes ago. And he says, you know the story. Get rid of the grizzled old newshound who you have to pay a living wage so you can bring in some kid who will work for ramen money. The Planet was a grand old gal once upon a time. I love the way that Perry White is shown here. This is what I'm talking about. I love the way he looks, right? He's rough around the edges. He's not nearly the kind of kindly and understanding type of editor, almost like a very nice version of J. Jonah Jameson that we're used to, right, in DC Comics. Lord knows he predates Jameson by years, but the fact is, right, he says, now the Daily Planet is a Titanic. If the Titanic was a dump with a death trap elevator. And he says, this business will break your heart, kid. Good luck, Lois Lane. And so she's kind of texting back and forth with basically Jimmy Olsen, kind of filling him in on what's going on and asking questions like, what in the world does a Metro desk editor do? But in the midst of all of that, suddenly these kind of tentacles start emanating through Metropolis. And that's when you switch back over to Hawkman and Absolute Superman. And this is when Clark gets crushed, because at that moment, Superman just says, I'm sorry about that, Hawkman, but something's happening in Metropolis. And he asks him, right, do you see that? What is that thing, right? We have to get over there. But Hawkman minces no words. In fact, he says nothing. He literally just rears back with the wrath of God and sends Superman flying with this mace. And that's only the tip of it, right? Superman asks, like, what in the hell do you think you're doing? And Hawkman just says, teaching you a lesson, boy, one way or another. And Superman asks, right, people down there need our help. Don't you hear them? And Hawkman just says, let them scream, Superman. Let's see if you can save yourself. And that's where Superman just says, all right, you asked for this. And like, fires off his heat vision, and Hawkman literally pummels right through it. Because where Superman tells him, you asked for this, Hawkman's like, yeah, and I'm still asking, right? And he's like, is that it? Microwave eyes? That's the best you have. He's like, you're not fighting peacemakers anymore, champ. You're gonna need more than some fancy cape to save your ass. So he's just crushing this guy. Superman goes in for a punch, Hawkman counters, hits him with the mace. He says, pathetic. I guess you figured you're so strong, you don't have to learn how to actually throw a punch. And he says, sure, you're fast, but fast and clumsy is still clumsy. And he says, it looks like you learned how to fight from watching TV. I learned from killing Germans and the Viet Cong and commie super spies. Without me, you'll be dead in a week, Superman. And he says, now tell me the truth. You were never in a single fight before you got these powers, were you? And Superman just tells him, you're right, but I've got these powers now, and just clocks this guy and just sends him flying through a parking structure. And so at that point, Hawkman and Superman come face to face with this critter that's out there. And Hawkman is like, what in the name of all that's holy is that? And Superman's like, I told you, either help me save Metropolis or stay out of my way, Hawkman. And he says, this is the only fight that matters, because this is Project Parasite, feeding on the life energy of everything around him. And Jesus, if this guy is not the definition of nightmare fuel, you guys know I love nightmare fuel. This guy is the definition of it, right? This is a monster if there ever was one. And so at that point, we switch over to Missouri, because lest we forget, Brainiac went to go see Lex Luthor. And so at that point, the conversation picks up between the two of them, right? This is a generous offer, and I do appreciate you coming all the way out here, but I'm afraid I just don't understand. I mean, why me? And he asks, why come all this way and make such a push for a guy who owns a small town gas station and coaches Little League football? The only game we won was because the other team had mono. And he says, are you sure you have the right Lex Luthor? And that's where Brainiac, in disguise, says, oh indeed, Mr. Luthor, you're exactly the man I need for this project. After extensive research, your name has come up as the absolute perfect candidate. But Lex asks him, right, this project, you say it's classified, so do you work for the government? And Brainiac tells him, I've shaken the hands of 10 presidents, 11 if you count the one who slapped me, but now I've gone into business for myself. And this project, all I can tell you is that its focus will be on one very special individual. They call him Superman. And the response of Lex, right, I don't really know who that is. I don't really care much for the news. I'd rather be working in the yard than looking at my phone. I know there's a lot of problems out there these days, but here, well, everything's a slice of pie, right? And that's where his kids, Lena and Alex, come running outside. Hey, mom says she's ready to cut the cake. Are you ready to come in here? Right? And he says, yeah, tell your mom that I'll be right there. And so at that point, they get up, and Brainiac tells him, Mr. Luthor, let me remind you that money is no object. If my offer does not seem fair, simply add as many zeros to it as you would like. I assure you, I will pay whatever the price to be in the Lex Luthor business. And that's where Lex just tells him, right, that's awfully flattering. But at the end of the day, no, right? I cannot take that offer. I have everything I need right here. I'm the luckiest man in the world, which is the worst thing he could have said. Because at that point, he says, I'm sorry, but I just can't say yes to a job that's going to take me away from my family. I'm going to have to decline. And so Brainiac tells him, okay, fine, right? And then he continues on and he says, don't feel like you have to rush off though, right? You're welcome to stay for a slice of cake, mister. And he's like, but then I remembered, I don't really have your name. And that's where Brainiac tells him, oh, I'm not going to be leaving, right? If this is everything that you feel like you need in order to be happy, then I'm going to kill everybody and take it away. Because he tells him, you're not who I thought you were, Lex Luthor. You're nothing like the man of unquenchable ambition you you are meant to be. I have seen beyond this universe. I've seen a Luther who raised himself up to throttle gods with his own hands, who carved his name in blood across the stars. This pitiful, hollow shell of a version seems to lack the necessary motivation, but that's okay, because my name is Brainiac, and I'm told I can be quite motivating. Let's get started, because this dude turns his arms into chainsaws and starts getting to work on everyone. But how much do you want to bet this Lex Luthor is not what he appears to be? There's something else going on with this guy. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.
Inside a tavern, the talk of the town is all about monsters in human form. One of the men says they call themselves demon soldiers. He then recalls an incident that happened in the city 3 days ago, where 7 mages were brutally taken out by the demon soldiers. His friend gets spooked and asks if these soldiers are really that strong. The older man replies that strong doesn't even begin to cover it, because they have human-level intelligence and magical power even greater than dragons. The young man then questions why such powerful monsters are hunting mages, and according to the rumors, they're looking for something very specific. Suddenly, the scene shifts, and a mage shoves a man while yelling at him. Our hero, Sotel, falls to the ground, completely surprised by the woman's reaction. The mage, Amira, complains that he got a little too handsy for a simple healing spell. Sotel then apologizes for the misunderstanding, but he quickly explains that her wound was complicated because it had 2 different poisons. The healer asks if she didn't go a little too far, and she turns to a blonde guy. Shiero and Radian join the conversation, and Radian tells her to just drop it. He says it's a waste of time, and that even looking at Sotel will ruin his drink. Our protagonist is bummed out, but agrees in the end. Radian then says Sotel's job is done, and tells him to get lost, and he throws a few coins on the ground as a humiliating payment for the healer. Radian tells him to come back tomorrow, and the party starts to leave, but Sotel calls out to him. Our hero then asks, outraged, if that's all he's getting paid, because on the ground were just a few measly bronze coins. Without even looking back, Radian replies that's what his work is worth. He humiliates him further, saying Sotel is just a burden who hides in the shadows. And right after that, the party enters the building, leaving him all alone. Meanwhile, inside, people recognize the famous rank of party. Everyone admires the trio and comments that they'll be rank S in no time. Outside, our protagonist stares at the closed door and lets out a sigh. He then remembers he was injured and uses a healing spell on himself. After that, our protagonist gets lost in thought, staring into space. He glares at the coins on the ground with a look of pure defeat. Sotel squeezes his eyes shut, trying to hold back all his anger, and he sits on the ground, wondering what he's even doing with his life. Our hero just sits there with a completely defeated posture. All alone on that cold street, he reflects on his future. Looking up at the moon, he thinks that maybe he should just give up on being an adventurer. But he quickly ditches the idea, since he has no other skills and no money saved up. Suddenly, he gets up and decides to stop thinking about all this depressing stuff. After all, he decides he's going to go out for a drink, because saving money is just plain sad. While walking peacefully, Sotel is caught off guard by a blast of purple energy. He feels the impact, completely clueless about what's happening. The blow hits him square in the gut, causing considerable damage. With wide eyes, our hero can't process the situation. He looks down and sees his abdomen is bleeding a lot. The confusion soon gives way to an expression of anger and determination. Seeing his hand covered in blood, he wonders what in the world this is. A cloaked figure appears and laments, having missed the attack that was supposed to be fatal. Our hero senses the presence and notices it's no ordinary human. On the rooftop, the monster observes him with a powerful aura. Sotel feels an immense magical power, stronger than any rank S he's ever seen. The monster introduces himself as Zeon, a demon soldier in the service of the Demon King. With a wicked smile,
He says he's finally found him, and right after, he reveals that his mission is to take the life of the healer, Sato. Our protagonist doesn't understand how a demon soldier knows him. Zeon attacks again, but Sotel manages to defend himself with his staff. Even while blocking, our protagonist is pushed back by the force of the blow. He quickly uses the spell Angelic Heal to patch up his wound. The demon is impressed by his speed, and Sotel thanks him for the compliment. Now healed, he gets ready for the next round of the fight. Our hero charges at Zeon with everything he's got, but the demon taunts him, telling him to stop holding back. Sotel replies that he's not messing around, and realizes the monster really wants to end him. He doesn't get why, since he considers himself just a washed-up rank F healer. Zeon is completely shocked by our protagonist's statement. The demon then asks if he really doesn't know the extent of his own power. Our protagonist is confused, and Zeon calls him a wasted treasure, and he reveals that he possesses a 1 in a 1,000-year ability. Suddenly, Zeon attacks him by surprise, and Sotel screams, not understanding what's happening. The strike is too fast and hits our hero dead on. In the blink of an eye, Sotel's head is separated from his body. Zeon explains that even incomplete, his power would become a threat in the future. Our protagonist is disoriented as his consciousness slowly fades. He sees his own body on the ground and wonders if he's really going to go out like this. Suddenly, a strange memory surfaces in his mind. In it, he sees Radian and Amira on top of a cliff, and he also sees himself fighting desperately against terrifying monsters. The faces of his old teammates appear in his thoughts. He remembers how he was excluded by the party and realizes he doesn't have a single good memory. The last thing he sees is the silhouette of Radian confirming his failure. His last memory is the contemptuous look from his former comrades, all while the demon Zaun watches him with a satisfied smirk on his face. The red glint in the monster's eye reveals its malicious and cruel nature, and Sotel's last thought is that he had a really crappy life. But suddenly, the darkness vanishes and gives way to a beautiful, sunny landscape. Unexpectedly, a blue eye slowly opens, taking in the sunlight. Then, it widens in pure shock and surprise at the situation. Our hero jumps to his feet, totally confused by what he's seeing. He wonders where he is. A sweat drips down his face. Looking at himself, he notices his body is different, much younger. Our hero is all alone in the middle of a forest under a massive tree. He then stares at his hands and notes that they don't have any scars anymore. Confused, he touches his chest because he's sure he should be dead. He gets up and walks to a lake, wondering if he somehow came back to life, but he quickly dismisses that idea, since that would be impossible. And upon seeing his reflection in the water, he sees the face of an unknown young man. Suddenly, 3 men appear, and one of them says he isn't dead after all. Our hero turns his head, confused by the stranger's comment. The man says he looked dead yesterday, and that it would have been better if he'd stayed that way. Sotel stares at the group, trying to figure out if they're enemies. The heavyset man calls him Tyria, and tells him to get up and get ready. Our boy is confused by the situation and assumes they must be allies, but the guy grabs him angrily, and our hero asks who they are. The man then questions if he got beat up so bad that he lost his memory, and he even threatens him with another beatdown to see if that'll wake him up. Our protagonist notices that Tyria's body is covered in wounds, just like his was. And as he realizes his soul has moved into the young man's body, a punch comes flying. But our hero stops the punch with one hand and calls the attacker Kid. The man and his friends are totally shocked by the change in attitude because he realizes this isn't the Tyria he was used to pushing around. Suddenly, a green healing aura starts emanating from our hero's hand, and he uses the spell Fairy Heal to mend all his injuries. One of the cronies is surprised and asks when he learned to use healing magic. Our protagonist then replies that he's not the Tyria they knew anymore. The big guy gets ticked off by the response and takes his anger out on a nearby bird, and he yells at our hero not to get cocky just because he got a little stronger. He then threatens to kill him and tells his friends to attack with everything they've got. Our protagonist feels genuinely annoyed for the first time in a long while. He thanks Tyria for the body and prepares to teach these guys a lesson. And then he lunges forward with absurd speed toward the two goons. With impressive speed, he grabs the head of the first goon, and with a single, powerful blow, our hero knocks him out instantly. He then turns to the next one and warns him that he's up. The second goon gets furious and yells at him not to underestimate them, but our protagonist dodges the punch with ridiculous ease, and he lands a powerful counter attack right in the brute's stomach. The man is left gasping for air, and our hero comments that the hit wasn't half bad. The leader of the group is shocked, wondering what the heck is going on. Our MC picks up the staff from the ground, with the two goons already defeated, and with an intimidating glare, he asks if the big guy wants a beating too. The man is completely frozen, with fear at the question. He freaks out and starts yelling that just yesterday, Tyria was a useless dead weight. The boss calls him worthless, and is outraged by the sudden change. Our hero replies that he's heard the word useless plenty of times in his life. The heavyset guy then grabs a club and charges at him full force. But our protagonist says that as an adventurer, he's already been through hell, and using all his experience, he braces for the enemy's attack. Our boy blocks the club and lands a solid punch right in the big guy's face. He then says that using power without thinking is like a child's tantrum, and with a final apology, he ends the fight by throwing him backward. With the last blow, he says the guy can't even beat a rank F like him, and just like that, all three bullies are down for the count, totally defeated. Our hero then hopes this has cleared up some of Tyria's resentment, but he wonders how such an agile and strong young man was treated so poorly, and if the body belongs to Tyria, how was he able to use his own healing magic? Our protagonist still can't believe he's been given a second life and feels lost. Suddenly, something on the ground catches his attention while he's thinking. Near his foot, he finds a slightly crumpled piece of paper. Upon picking it up, he discovers it's a status examination form. The paper reveals that Tyria was an adventurer and a rank F swordsman. Our hero then decides he'll also take the exam to understand the situation. Besides, he remembers what the demon soldier Xion said about his rare ability. The Adventurers Guild uses a special magical tool for this exam, because ranks are a system that shows an adventurer's aptitude and power. Our hero remembers he hadn't done one of these in years because his skills weren't improving, and Radian would always yell at him for wasting time on useless things like that. He then arrives at the Adventurers Guild to finally take his exam, and right after, he sits down to check the results he just received. Our protagonist starts reading the paper to first see his basic status page, and the sheet shows the name Tyria, but the class and spells belong to Sotel, the healer. The paper also shows that his spell, Prayer to the Gods, is still unusable, but he wonders if this could be the ability the demon soldier mentioned. Then he turns the page and is shocked to see two skills he didn't recognize. Our protagonist is surprised by the skills Club and Full Auto. He remembers that Club is a common skill for physical attack classes, and even though he's a healer, he manifested it from swinging his staff so much. This means the real focus here is the ability called Full Auto, because it automatically activates its effects on the user and any allies he recognizes. Our hero then wonders if this is the so-called 1-in-1,000-year skill. He decides he needs to test it in the field, but suddenly, he hears familiar voices. Radian and his party enter the guild, and the blonde says Sotel isn't there. Amira complains that he's a terrible old man for running off without saying anything. Our boy gets tense, having completely forgotten about his former companions. Meanwhile, the trio looks for a new quest, since they're without a healer. Shiero says it's not their problem, and Radian tells them to just pick a mission already. Suddenly, Radian turns around, annoyed, and asks what the kid wants. He tells our hero to scram, because they're not some circus attraction. Amira then tells Radian to just forget the old man and move on. She adds that he was useless anyway and left them with this whole mess. Our protagonist just watches the group. Our hero is shocked because he realizes that no one recognized him. He then turns his attention back to the paper in his hands, still processing everything. The sheet shows the name Tyria, but his healer class and rank F. He thinks about the 3 guys who are tormenting him when he woke up, and also about the other acquaintances who were at the Adventurers Guild. And finally, he remembers his former teammates. None of them realized he was Sotel, the party's former healer. This makes him think that maybe he can start his life over from scratch. For a long time, he was an adventurer who had given up on everything. He needed money, and for that, he humbled himself before people like them. Our protagonist remembers his crappy life with a bitter smile, but now, with a determined look, he decides to put an end to that past. He crumples the paper in his hand with force and conviction, and he stands up, ready to finally leave his old life behind. To test his new skills, he accepts a very simple mission. The task is rank E, and consists of eliminating 30 wolves from the forest. He uses the staff he picked up to defend against the creature's first attack, and with his eyes glowing, he prepares to use one of his new skills. Our hero then uses club and lands a devastating blow on the wolf. Another monster charges forward, and our boy gets ready for the next attack. With another clean hit, he finishes off the wolf and thinks about how good the skill is. Suddenly, he feels a surge of power and sees that Club has already leveled up to 2. And the party doesn't seem to be ending, as 3 more wolves emerge from the forest. With a confident smile, he prepares to test his full auto ability. Our hero then extends his hand and shouts the skill's name with all his might. But to his surprise, absolutely nothing happens, and he's left confused. One of the wolves takes advantage of the distraction and lunges at him. With no time to think, our boy reacts and lands a solid punch right in the mutt's face. He then wonders why the ability didn't activate, as he expected. But looking at the paper in his hand, he finally understands why. The skill activates automatically on him and any allies he recognizes by name. And to test his theory, he lets another wild wolf charge at him. The monster bites his arm hard, but our protagonist doesn't even flinch. And out of nowhere, the wolf's teeth shatter as if they'd bitten a rock. The creature is left with a broken jaw, crying out in pain from the result. He then realizes the skill is incredible, and with it, the damage he takes is almost 0. Our hero understands why the skill is a treasure, as it levels up faster. Now, everything makes sense, and he finally understands the demon soldier's motive. Because if he develops this ability, he could become infinitely stronger. The skill wasn't non-existent, he just didn't know he had it, and now he can start over. The ability had been active the whole time, but he simply didn't know it, and since he only ever faced strong opponents, he never felt its benefits. Now his body feels as light as a feather as the last wolf stares him down. He can see the creature's every move, as if it were in slow motion. Our hero understands that he'd been receiving the skill's benefits for a long time without noticing, and after the battle, the bodies of the wolves are scattered across the clearing. He then stares at the paper with the information about his new abilities, and he thinks that the full auto skill was something even the Demon King feared, but by a twist of fate, he came back to life and can now master this skill. With a dirty face, he promises to turn the tables and live this second life like a king. Back in the city, our boy walks the streets with a new purpose. He returns from the hunt carrying a huge, heavy sack on his back. The mission was to kill 30 wolves, but he got carried away and hunted triple that amount. Arriving at the guild, he sees an adventurer trying to flirt with a receptionist. The guy is holding the woman's hand with a very charming attitude. He calls her Rosa and asks if she has a little free time for him. The woman smiles shyly, but seems to be enjoying the attention. The adventurer says her shyness is cute and asks her out, but their conversation is interrupted when someone shows up behind the guy. The adventurer then slaps their hand away. The adventurer gets annoyed, but is cut off by a loud thud on the counter, because our hero slams a giant sack on the table, startling the receptionist, Rosa, and right after that, he throws down another huge sack, surprising the woman even more. Our boy then asks with an innocent face if he did something wrong. Poor Rosa is almost buried by the sacks of items he brought, and she's even more shocked by the size and weight of it all. Our protagonist hands over the mission paper. and says he's here to turn in the quest. The woman takes the paper and is shocked to read that the mission was for 30 wolves. And her jaw drops even further when she sees the amount of loot he brought back. He then apologizes and says he accidentally hunted a little extra. The adventurer who was watching him is speechless at the scene he just witnessed. Because this rookie named Tyria seemed to have an incredible skill, our hero asks if it's a problem, but Rosa excitedly cuts him off. She congratulates him on completing the mission and is happy with the result, and says that for a healer to bring in so much loot alone is impressive. Our boy feels a bit flustered by the compliment and just says thanks. Rosa says that at this rate, he'll be promoted to rank E or even D in no time. In his past life, he only ever received fake smiles, but now he feels refreshed, and with a smile on his face, he thinks about how being young is a really good thing. But the adventurer rudely tells him to get out of the way. The adventurer then glares at him and asks if he's a rookie around here. Our boy vaguely replies that it's something like that. The guy laughs cockily and says he can see right through him, because he accuses him of just trying to impress the receptionist. Our hero calmly asks what would be wrong with that. The adventurer then concludes that he just bought all those items somewhere. Our protagonist then questions what he would gain by doing that. The guy replies with a smug look that he's just a weakling, and he even brags, saying he always completes his missions solo. Rosa lets out a very forced laugh at the guy's pathetic display. Our boy finally gets it and realizes the guy has a crush on the woman. The adventurer provokes him to answer the accusation already. Calmly, our hero says he gathered everything with his own strength. The guy doubts it, since the wolves he hunted have resistance to magic. Our protagonist then says that unfortunately, he can't use attack magic, so he simply used his staff to take down all the wolves. The adventurer starts laughing, thinking it's all just a joke. He then says our hero is stronger than he looks, and grabs the sack. Our protagonist realizes there's no point in saying anything more to him. The guy gets annoyed by our hero's look. Our hero then tells him to take it however he wants because they won't be seeing each other again. Angered by our boy's attitude, the adventurer clenches his fist tightly, and he yells for him not to get a big head as he lunges forward with a punch. But suddenly, our protagonist's eye flashes with an intense blue light. The guy lands a solid punch on his face, but the blow has no effect at all, and the result is not good, as the adventurer screams in pain from the impact. He then looks at his hand, not understanding what just happened there. It's completely bruised and bleeding because of the punch. The guy asks what was done to him, and our hero replies, nothing. Our protagonist says he didn't do a thing, and that it was just his defense skill. And from the impact of the punch, his full auto ability levels up to 2. Thus, his self-healing and reflex enhancement also improve. The people around them comment that the injury looks pretty painful, and they even find the guy pathetic for getting beat up after starting the fight. The adventurer is filled with shame and anger over the whole situation, so he grabs his sword, ready for round 2 of the fight. He draws his weapon, completely determined to get revenge on our hero. Yelling that he'll never forgive him, he charges forward with a sword attack. Our protagonist calmly predicts the downward strike coming from the right, and he easily dodges the attack by just stepping to the side. The adventurer is shocked, not expecting him to dodge so easily. Even with an injured hand, he prepares for the next sword attack. Then he tries a horizontal slash from the left, but our hero predicts the move. Thanks to his skill, he can read his opponent's every movement. It's as if his brain and muscles were directly linked. The fight continues, and now the two face off on top of a table. The guy gets desperate, because losing to a rookie would be a joke. Completely losing it, he screams that he's going to end our hero's life. Our protagonist then challenges him to see if he can deliver on that promise. With his opponent completely losing it, our hero decides it's time to fight back. So, the adventurer lunges forward with a rage-fueled sword strike, but our protagonist dodges the attack with impressive ease, and the guy calls him a pest. The adventurer's face twists in rage for not being able to land a single hit. He tries a horizontal slash, but our boy ducks and dodges it again. Our protagonist then says the guy is an adventurer too and gets ready for a counterattack. Seeing the punch coming, the man tries to defend himself with his sword. His eyes go wide with fear as he sees the speed of the incoming attack. Meanwhile, our hero stares him down with a serious look, his eyes glowing blue, and with a cold expression, he says it's nothing personal before striking. The adventurer attempts a desperate strike, but our guy shatters his guard. In a swift move, our protagonist grabs the guy's hand with absurd strength. The man is in complete shock, not believing what's happening. With a single move, our hero flings him away, his sword flying through the air, and to finish it off, he lands a powerful punch right in the adventurer's face. After the fight, our guy is a bit confused by the result of that punch. He looks at the staff he used in the blow and notices something strange. Our protagonist thinks he didn't use much force and wonders if another skill leveled up, but he finds out that's not it and suspects his rank might have gone up. And upon checking his stats, he sees he went from an F rank healer to an E rank. The punch sends the adventurer's mug flying, and it shatters on the floor, splashing booze everywhere. Then, his sword clatters to the ground, and the fight finally comes to an end. The guy's friends are just standing there, jaws dropped, not believing the beatdown he just took. The adventurer is left sitting on the floor, totally defeated, as our hero walks away. Our guy feels a little awkward with all the attention he's getting, so he turns to the fallen guy and asks if he's okay. The man looks up, still in shock from our protagonist's strength. Everyone in the guild, including Tyria and the other adventurers, is impressed by the scene. The loser's face turns red with shame and anger for being so humiliated. He struggles to his feet, still feeling the pain from the hits he took, and without a word, he and his buddies leave the guild with their tails between their legs. Our protagonist just watches their pathetic exit with a smirk. Suddenly, a group of adventurers approaches him with a really friendly attitude. One of them calls him man and seems super excited about what just happened. The guy congratulates him, saying he's awesome and that the jerk won't be coming back. He ruffles our hero's hair, who gets flustered and tells him to stop. The adventurer then calls for Tyria, who walks over to the group. The young woman thanks our boy and apologizes for him getting involved in the mess. Our protagonist says it wasn't her fault, while the other guy is still hugging him, but Tyria looks away a bit awkwardly, as if she wants to say something more. Our guy smiles and tells her not to worry, because he just really didn't like that dude. Her reaction leaves Tyria with a surprised look on her face, but then she breaks into a smile and gives him a genuine thank you for the help. After the commotion, our hero says goodbye to the folks at the guild and goes on his way. He then walks alone through the city streets at dusk. He lets out a sigh of relief as he watches the sunset over the bustling city. Our protagonist strolls through the streets, thinking about everything that happened. He reflects that he was attacked, came back to life, and even did a solo mission, all in a single day, and with a slight smile on his face. He thinks about how insane all of it was, but despite all the craziness, he admits he had a lot of fun. He remembers that for decades his skills never improved, and he was a total failure. However, now he reaches his hand out to the sun, feeling this new opportunity. Living a new life in this body might not be such a bad idea after all. And with that in mind, he decides he can head to the city of Baldaria. He remembers the last time he was there was about 3 months ago. And it's not a fond memory, since he was thrown into a monster nest. His old companions pushed him in there just for kicks. Back then, he was full of energy and wanted to eat until he couldn't move. However, with Radian and the others around, he couldn't do what he wanted. He'd end up just eating vegetables while watching them devour all the meat. He remembers Shiero once gave him a piece of meat out of pity, but it gave him such bad indigestion that he got really sick. However, with this new body, he feels like he can eat as much as he wants without any problems. Our guy then stops for a moment to reflect on his new life. He has a lot of questions about the why and how of it all, but he decides that what's done is done, and it's better to just get used to it. With a clearer mind, he enters a house to start getting ready. Decided, He says there's no time like the present and goes to pack his things. Our protagonist then grabs his bag to start organizing his items. He sits on the floor and begins to sort everything he'll need for the trip. With a smile on his face, he feels like a kid before a field trip, and soon after, he says the preparations are almost all set. However, he didn't count on a small snag in his plans. As he stretches, he realizes the kid's body was really well built. Because of that, he decides he needs to buy new clothes before he leaves. Next, our hero starts boiling something in a pot over the fire. Carefully, he removes the hot pot to finish his preparation. Inside is a potion made with 7 types of herbs and his own magical power. He thinks the name, Toxic, is a bit over the top and wonders who came up with it. Despite the weird color, he guarantees the potion's effectiveness is the real deal. But suddenly, the front door is busted open with absurd force. Our hero whips around, startled by the noise and the debris flying everywhere, and with a shocked expression, he wonders, what in the world was that? Suddenly, a little white wolf jumps on our hero, catching him by surprise. The little guy knocks him to the ground and stays on top of him, all excited and happy. With its tongue out, the little wolf barks cheerfully at the young man. He's confused and wonders where on earth that puppy came from. Just then, a sinister fog appears out of nowhere, and our boy protects the animal. This fog transforms into a red monster with very sharp claws. The reflection of the fearsome creature appears in the protagonist's eye, leaving him shocked. He's thrown back by the beast's aura and wonders if it's real. The monster stares down the young man, who has no idea who this enemy is. The creature lunges with a swift blow, but our hero manages to dodge just in time. He then complains that problems just keep showing up one after another. The little wolf looks at him with an expression that almost seems worried. Our protagonist gets annoyed and says his day is full of disasters. At that, the little puppy makes a cute sound, as if asking a question. He faces the monster and tells the animal not to worry, because he'll protect it. At that moment, he notices the little wolf has a few scratches on its back, so the healer uses his angel healing magic to treat the wounds. Now fully healed, the little wolf looks much healthier and happier. Our hero gives a slight smile, relieved that he was able to help the little guy. Then he picks it up and decides to end this fight as quickly as possible. The fearsome creature prepares to attack, its red eyes glowing. With that, our hero grips his staff with all his strength, ready for battle. He then strikes the monster's arm with a powerful and precise blow. Even so, the enemy's strength pushes him back along with the little wolf. Our boy becomes thoughtful as he notices something strange about the beast's attack. The shadowy creature advances again, its tentacles ready to strike. Annoyed, he complains that the monster is wrecking his house like it owns the place, and with a shout, he lands a devastating blow right in the middle of the creature. The young man swiftly dodges another of the shadowy foe's attacks. The monster's body dissipates a bit from the staff's impact, but the fog creature quickly regenerates, returning to its original form. With a determined look, our protagonist prepares to continue the fight. He thinks that if he keeps this up, he'll eventually run out of energy. The hero complains that this whole situation is quite problematic as he defends himself. But as he blocks a blow, he feels something odd about the enemy's strength. The monster attacks once more, but our boy manages to defend himself. His eyes focus on the battle as he starts to understand what's going on. A memory of the blow's impact makes him realize the truth about the monster. The creature's attack left a nasty hole in the wooden floor of the house. However, he finds the hole too shallow and wonders if the beast is holding back. He then wonders why the enemy would be restraining itself in this fight. With a face full of anger, our hero continues to defend against the beast's attacks. One of the strikes hits his neck, but the wound vanishes instantly. At that moment, his self-recovery ability activates, healing the damage. With a confident look, he thinks about how useful this healing skill is. The fog creature then prepares for another powerful attack. With a fearsome roar, the monster opens its arms and charges with everything it's got. The beast advances, but our protagonist looks at it with a different expression. Just then, he gets an idea and wonders if the monster is weak against healing power. The creature attacks with its arm, which looks more like a sharp tentacle. The blow destroys another piece of the house, kicking up wood dust. Seeing this, our hero prepares to finally test his new theory. He decides he won't waste time thinking and will find out through action. So the young man uses his fairy healing magic directly on the monster. The creature screams in pain as the healing magic deals an absurd amount of damage to it. With a victorious smile, our protagonist realizes he hit the mark. The monster retreats, feeling the power of the holy magic searing its body. Seeing the enemy's weakness, the young man advances with his staff ready to strike. He then starts using his fairy healing repeatedly on the enemy without stopping, and with one last healing blow, he prepares to end the fight for good. He keeps attacking the beast with his healing magic relentlessly. Our hero focuses all his energy into the staff for the final blow. With a determined shout, he says that this will end it once and for all. Then he jumps and uses his angel healing with all his might against the enemy. The monster faces the attack, its red eyes wide with surprise. With the impact of the magic, the creature's body breaks apart into several pieces. And so, the fight comes to an end with our protagonist standing victorious. But he's a little confused, as he sees no trace of the enemy. Our boy then opens the door and looks outside to see if everything is okay. He finds it very strange that the monster didn't leave any remains behind, and he thinks it's the first time in decades he's seen a monster weak to healing. After checking everything, he goes back inside, still thoughtful. The young man puts a hand on his head, feeling a bit dizzy and tired. Then he wonders if he might have used too much mana in the fight. But suddenly, he feels a strange sensation coming from the boy's body. His full auto skill levels up, and he finds its growth rate to be way too fast. With that, he wonders if the boy, Tyria, had something special about him. At that moment, he turns and sees the little wolf staring at him intently. The little guy seems to be in a guarded stance, suspicious of what happened. So our hero approaches and tells the animal not to be so defensive. With a calm gesture, he holds out his hand and says that everything is fine now. Unexpectedly, the little wolf lunges forward and swats our hero's hand away. The young man is left completely confused as the animal stares at him seriously. To his surprise, the white wolf speaks and asks if he isn't Tyria. The animal then asks where Tyria is and why he has that appearance. Completely in shock, our protagonist can't believe the puppy just talked. A status screen appears, revealing that his skills have leveled up. Filled with anger, the wolf bares its teeth and demands to know what he did to Tyria. The healer then asks if Tyria was perhaps the owner of this body. The animal seems to understand the situation and readies its sharp claws. Full of fury, the wolf accuses him of simply stealing its friend's body. The young man quickly tries to explain, denying that he did that to the boy. But the animal doesn't listen and lunges at him with all its fury. Now the two face off, creating incredible tension, and the wolf is ready to pounce. Our hero yells as the white wolf leaps toward him to attack. Without hesitation, the creature bites the young man's arm with considerable force. Even with the bite, he maintains a serious and focused look on the situation. The wolf stops for a moment, looking very confused by the result of its attack. The animal keeps biting his arm, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. The healer then asks what happened all of a sudden. Since the bite didn't hurt, the wolf stops its attack and complains that its stomach hurts. Our hero is confused and wonders if it still had some injury. But in reality, the little guy was just hungry and asking for food. The healer then gives an awkward smile upon understanding the situation. With that, he serves the potion he prepared, and the wolf devours it instantly. The young man watches the animal eat with a very suspicious look. The little wolf is amazed by the taste and says, "It's overflowing with power." Our boy finds that very suspicious, as the animal started speaking more clearly. So he asks if dogs can have that kind of soup. The animal replies that it's not a dog, so there's no problem. The young man keeps staring at the beast with a look of disbelief. He then comments on the wolf's dog, wolf-like appearance, which it ignores. Then our hero says, the animal bit him quite a bit earlier. The wolf apologizes and says it didn't realize he was complete. The young man doesn't understand what that means, but the animal says he'll find out soon. With a thoughtful look, he decides to ask the little wolf another question. He then asks why the animal was with Tyria's body. The wolf explains that Tyria was a child chosen for some reason. The creature says it had the mission to care for and protect the boy. Our hero then says it should be panicking because Tyria is already gone. The wolf nods in agreement and says that what he said is true. It then smiles and says that must have been the boy's destiny. Our hero says that Tyria was 18 years old and that what happened is a shame. Therefore, the creature says its mission now is to guide our protagonist. The young man gets a bit tired of hearing that same story again. He then changes the subject and asks what that monster from before was. After all, he had never seen a fog creature that was weak to healing magic. The wolf then replies that, to be honest, it doesn't know much either. It only remembers being suddenly attacked when it went out to look for Tyria. The healer gets stressed out because demons and strange monsters have appeared. The creature then looks at him and asks if he happens to know about the demons. At this, the wolf gets serious and wonders if they've finally started to make their move. The animal stays silent for a while, making our hero very curious. The young man sighs and says that if it's not going to talk, then just forget it. With that, he picks the little wolf up in a very clumsy way. The healer carries it to the door and says it can go home now. He then reveals that he's going to start a journey the next morning. The young man says it's none of its business where he's going, as it's his new life. But the wolf refuses and says it will accompany him on this journey anyway. After all, it says that if it doesn't, it won't be able to face Tyria later. Our hero says he doesn't need a guardian, as he's too old for that, but the wolf insists it needs to stay by his side, especially if the demons have made a move. Then the creature starts to glow and says it's surprisingly useful when it wants to be. Our boy is shocked by the light, and the animal says it hasn't properly introduced itself yet. It reveals itself as Gracia of the Sky Messenger's clan and carries him into the air. Our hero gives a somewhat forced smile at the whole unexpected situation. His blue eye reflects the sky as he flies on the back of the giant creature. With that, the two fly through the skies at high speed, soaring over the entire city. Then he gets a view of a couple holding hands, walking down the street, and also of a guy dancing, and another one crouching to pick something up from the ground. Gracia then tells Sotel to use him if he has a goal for this journey, and with that, the two continue their flight through the city's skies toward the horizon. The healer becomes thoughtful at the word Kus, as he doesn't really like it. After all, that word reminds him of how he was used and betrayed in the past. He remembers his old companions and how he was cast aside by them, but he sees it as a contract where he receives benefits in exchange for being watched. The young man thinks that maybe it'll be good to spice up his new life a little. With a smile, he agrees and says he will use him without any reservations. Gracia then asks for their first destination, and our hero replies that it will be Bardalia. The wolf recognizes the city, and the young man says they'll go to Filialka, the city of fairies. Afterward, our hero explains that he likes the figures from that city, and the wolf finds that hobby quite unexpected. The young man agrees with a thoughtful look, but he has other plans in mind. He wants to drink sake and eat some really crazy meat skewers. The healer also wants to enjoy his hobbies to the fullest without any worries. With a smile, he says he wants to get back all this little happiness he lost. Then the two arrive in the city of Bardalia, which is very busy at dusk. Through the streets, many people are walking and enjoying the city's peaceful night. Our hero observes the hustle and bustle and the food stalls with a curious gaze. Gracia comments that the place is very lively and seems excited by the view. The young man agrees and says the energy here is different from where he used to live, and that's why he wanted to stop by Tyria's house to get some new clothes. But the creature says their time is limited and they can't waste it. The wolf suggests he use fur like it does and the young man replies that he's unfortunately human. The creature then looks at him with a smile and asks why he's so grumpy. Just then, they arrive at a shop, and Gracia asks if this is where he wanted to go. The young man then opens the door and enters the establishment to do his shopping, but to his surprise, the place is dark, and he sees only one woman inside. The lady apologizes and informs him that the shop is temporarily closed for the day. Our hero is a bit surprised and disappointed by the unexpected news. With a sigh, he just nods and prepares to leave the place. The lady apologizes and says the shop won't be opening for a long time. Our hero is confused by the news and doesn't understand the reason for the closure. She then explains that the truth is they can no longer go to the animal pasture. That was a peaceful place where the creatures grazed freely. But now a dragon has settled in a cave right in the middle of the path. The young man is completely shocked and asks if she really said a dragon. The woman just confirms with a nod, her expression very sad and disheartened. With that, the two say their goodbyes and leave the shop without getting what they wanted. Gracia comments that not only was it a dragon, but it was also a rare variant. The creature says our hero is unlucky to be stopped right at the start of his journey. The young man then clenches his fist tightly, showing his determination. With a confident look, he says that's
I think I'll call it a night, yes? Let's call it a night. Yes, bro. Alright, I'm gonna call this a night. Save this. Characters could be used again at another time. Let's call it random, cause just practicing some stuff here. Random practice. Alright guys, I'll be heading out now. Although I want to stream some more. I am tired. Very tired. Alright. See you guys tomorrow. Latest for now. Goodbye. Stuff. Ending the live. Oh, yeah.